All right, we're ready to start. 3 o'clock, and this is the Board of County Commissioners of Rio Blanco County. This is a budget work session. This is for informational purposes only. There'll be no decisions made. You, I believe, can join us on the county YouTube channel live, or I believe it will be posted later if you want to watch it. But first on the workshop scheduled today is the Budget and Finance Department and Central Services and a whole bunch more, which is Janae Danworth. So, Janae, would you like to?
Yes. You want to start? Okay. So I figured what we would do is just start with an overview of where we currently sit, just so that you guys can have that, and then we'll dive into some of these other departments. So in your budget books, if you want to start at the very beginning, we'll kind of work our way through this. So the second page, which is B1, comparison of property tax revenue. You guys have that in the very front, Gary. Right.
H, no, very front. B.
Before B. Tab. There you go.
Okay.
Okay. So our mill still is 9.050 mils. Property tax did decrease as it currently stands by 8.7%. That is $605,064 decrease from last year.
Hey, can you slow down for a
Yep.
So it was 8.what%?
8.7.
That before or after the changes have been made based on the statutes that were adopted, I believe, last year, which reduced the rate on assessed valuation on everything except residential, if I'm not mistaken. And
all of those
residential a little bit as well, but
all of those additional.
Yeah.
Yes. So that is after.
That's after.
Is what I understand from Renee.
Right.
Now, once again, this is preliminary. That was back in August, right? So you probably will have some change before I get the final assessed valuation.
That,
800 and what?
605.
605.
064.
Based on 064. And that's based on our 9.5 mils.
Yes. So assessed valuation, that's the dollar figure, right? So you're talking about total taxes compared to assessed valuation. So assessed valuation was $66,857,950. That's that 8.7% drop of assessed valuation, which equates to 605,064 based off of our 9.050 mils. So we're looking at a total property tax revenue of $6,375,250 that we will getting to collect for 2021 taxes collected in 2022.
Or Rio Blanco County.
For Rio Blanco County, yes. Do you have any questions on that piece of it?
And Renee probably is the one to ask, but do you have the breakout on that?
Yes. So if you go to, let's see here, B4. So I was going to go. It's going to show you at the top of the page, the breakout based on vacant land, residential, commercial, industrial, agricultural, natural resources, oil and gas, and state assessed. So currently, as it stands, industrial and oil and gas still make up 68% of total valuation for property taxes for assessed valuation.
I just want to point out that it needs to be noted that residential is only taxed at 7.2% of its assessed valuation. So all the mill levies, depending on what districts and whatnot they're in, 7.2. So on $100,000 in value, they pay tax on $7,200. Anything other than ag, or anything other than residential, it's taxed at 29%, and now maybe a little bit
down now.
up to 26 or 27.
Yeah.
Four.
But so that means they're paying on we are all paying, I should say, on $27,000 per 100,000 in value. So in reality, takes over $4 of residential value to equal the same tax as $1 of anything else.
And
So
that's,
that 37 in residential to 37 million in value would be equal to a fourth of that.
yeah, so in
compared to
2021.
the others.
Yeah,
Just worth noting. is all.
and that's why,
What we collect.
correct, and that's why residential, really, any changes to residential
Oh,
doesn't impact us because it's only 6% of our total valuation of property tax.
of what we collect,
Yes, it's 6%. Yeah, as it currently stands.
even though it's a larger portion as far as the total assessed valuation by 4.
Yes. So you do have decreases again this year. Oil and gas decreased 17% again from last year. Industrial decreased 7% from last year. And natural resources, remember last year it increased 27%.
It lost our audio there, or, yeah, our audio.
Here's a
We lost audio right around oil and gas.
oil and gas. Okay, cool.
Just
So this is the list of state valuation. So this is who,
That includes electric power lines as well.
yeah, there's, like I said, anything that's one entity, but
Yeah.
the same, that's that's where you're gonna get that state valuation. Okay, so, with our mills currently, because your revenue, your property tax revenue has, decreased, Road and Bridge still is in need of about the same amount, even though we put that pill in this year. Just because your property tax decreased 8.7%, they still need the same amount of property taxes last year, pretty much, to make it run.
We need to
Theoretically.
make a change to that.
So so on that page B1.
If we have already.
So currently, I've got them the same mill as last year. Human Services is right around the same mill as last year. Public Health, same as last year as well. And then I have a little bit going to capital expenditure because I'm going to be transferring money from the capital expenditure fund to the capital improvement plan fund to help the airport projects out with our share for 2022. So that's any changes we make, of course, just as review, the mill levy allocation for the different funds may change from where it currently is, depending on who needs more money, that sort of thing. Where can I move money around to?
Rob Peter to pay Paul?
Pretty much, yes. That makes sense. Okay.
So okay. So I'm looking at page D1.
Okay.
Am I getting ahead of you?
Nope, that's fine. That's where we're going next.
Which gives a breakout of total revenues.
Yes.
So where it's an interfund charge,
That's going to
is
be
that truly revenue?
No.
No.
It's a charge for service, pretty much. So it's going to be your
But it
facility management charges.
Works as far as comparison purposes from year to year, but
Yes.
as far as total revenues, that's,
I'm taking money from a different fund
yeah,
to help.
it's not a true revenue coming in.
Those are your fleet charges. Those are your central service charges. Your interfund, pretty much.
It's all under interfund.
Yep. It's not any outside revenue coming in.
So is it fair to say that the proposed 2022, when you pull out that interfund,
Mm-hmm.
4.2.
we expect to be bringing in
2.2.
right at 22 million total. Oh,
But yeah,
not 24, but whereas what we estimated last year for revenue was actually less interfund than we're estimating for this year, but we were estimating 29.7 million. Take the 2.25 out, we're at 26
yes,
million
Yes.
ballpark.
yes.
So we are truly seeing estimated a $4 million drop total revenues.
And remember, part of that is because we don't budget for FML severance or PILT. So that is not included in your proposed budget, but it is included.
But it wasn't last year either.
But it's included in your estimated, your 2021.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yes, because that's what we receipted in. So when you're looking at that, you really have to compare budget to budget if you want, otherwise you're gonna have to start pulling out some of those pieces to really
Right.
figure out where we're at.
Because where I'm trying to get to is how much are we really thinking we're gonna bring? Regardless, actually bring in, so that our expenses, once you pull out all the transfers and this and that,
Right,
can be compared.
right,
Comparing real dollars versus real dollars,
Right.
income versus expense,
yes,
and compared to last year. So we know which direction it's going.
yes,
How big is that drop? Total dollars is what
yes,
we're
yeah,
real
so,
dollars too.
yeah, so we're gonna get there. We'll get there. So couple things I want to point out on your total county revenue. Your sales tax has increased. We're budgeting flat compared to where we estimate that to come in for 2021. So between our 2021 budget and our 2021 estimated, you've got about 500,000 or so there. So just know that has increased from where we budgeted 2021, okay? Your other increases, big major increases that you're gonna see is in that intergovernmental line item there. So intergovernmental, we budgeted 2.9 million in 2021. We're estimating 6.6 million. Of that, about, let's just call it 4, right? 4 million difference. It's 3.7, but 1.7 of that is FML, severance, and PILT. The other 2 million comes from additional grant funds through public health and DHS.
And how much is DHS? Is that COVID related on DHS or not?
So DHS is pretty much related to your EBT charges, that your EBT, so your electronic benefit transaction payments, the cards that people get, like your food assistance. So on our books, the state says, okay, we gave Rio Blanco County 200,000 this month. We have to record 200,000 of revenue and 200,000 of expense to show that our county really received that much. Your majority is coming from those types of assistance. So it's not really new grant revenue coming in, but it's additional assistance to individuals that are in our county.
Is that an 80-20 match? Or is it 100? So that's a wash for us.
Correct. But you're going to see it on the revenue side and on the expense.
And on the expense side.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Okay.
So, but 1.7 was
FML, severance, and PILT. Now, as a comparison, in 2019, we received 2.9 from those 3 revenue sources. So you're still about
2 so we're 1.2 short.
from 2019 in previous years.
And that's what we budgeted in 2021.
We don't budget for any of that.
But it's showing up here.
Correct. 1.7 is showing up in 2021.
Okay.
In 2019, 2.9.
Right. So do we know, because I know severance is crashing.
Yes.
But
they're saying it's going to rebound.
1.7, we know we got, because we received it last year, and that gets to be part of our budget.
Correct. Yes. And so that's where we've got to remember a few of those key factors there. We do have 1.7 in fund balance that we then can reallocate for 2022. Does that make sense? Okay. So when you're looking at just straight across revenue and expense, that's where you have to pull a few of those figures over. And we have to look at fund balance. All right. Any questions with total revenue as it currently stands?
Do they expect the investment earnings to go up?
I've heard that they're supposed, we're looking like they're supposed to, but not by much, I would say.
Since we switched over, it's gone up a little bit. Interest rates are expected to rise.
Which
The
we've been
Federal Reserve has not done anything yet, but it's not going to be by much. I'm guessing maybe 25 basis points is the max that they would raise it initially.
Ronna told me yesterday that because of a little bit higher risk
The new
stuff
fund
that she was encouraged to invest on a short-term basis. We are getting a fairly decent rate of return.
Right.
better than what we were, not depending on what you consider decent, but for the time.
Right now, you do want more
But it's
short-term.
strictly short-term.
Yes.
So she's anticipates switching that here anytime. Sounded like.
We still have, a pretty equal portfolio, I would say.
Yeah.
We still have some long-term investments. But right now, you're getting better rates off of short-term. Yep. Okay. So if you go to page C3, total county expenditure by object, it lays it out a little bit better for you guys, I think, to look at so that we can really compare cost categories compared to just saying, you know, it's general government or health and welfare.
Forget, Janae, I'm that guy that likes to see the total
Yes,
first and then explain how you got there,
well,
rather than the other way around.
yes.
And that's just me.
Well, and that's what, so your total is 32.2 in expense that we have currently budgeted. So down on page D3 at the very bottom, total expenditure 32.
Okay. Which is, right.
All right, so your personnel costs have decreased 801,000. And that is from a decrease of FTEs, hold on, I've got it here, of 9.75 FTEs compared to the 2021 budget. However, you do have increases that are going to offset that. So your purchase contract services have increased 313,000. Part of that is due to contract services instead of FTEs, right? So you know, instead of having jail FTEs, now you have a contract with Moffat County.
Right.
District attorney, that is all purchase contract services. So the increase of the district attorney budget, that would be captured here as well.
How,
Would it be
refresh my
dual
memory.
director also?
Go ahead.
Yes,
And the dual directors, like, for
yep, any dual,
human services
Right.
that we've got,
yep,
pulls out of that into.
Which is, that's part of the drop also. But yet,
in purchaser. Yeah, we're swapping, right? Cost categories in a sense. Yes, exactly.
that's part of why we're
Yes,
significantly more we budgeted for 2021. We budgeted 90,000 less than the actual, well, we budgeted a couple $100,000 less than the year before, but anyway.
grants and contributions, you went from 2.1 in the 2021 budget to 4.1 in the 2022 budget. Remember, I said that you were going to see that increase in expense on the DHS side, as well as public health through those additional grants and EBT benefits. And that's where you're seeing that number come through on the expense side. Capital projects have decreased, and that's just due to less capital projects, right? For next year, we don't have 2 airport pavement maintenance projects going on. We'll just have that one.
That's the bulk of that.
Correct. Repairs and maintenance have increased. The reason for that is because remember, every other year we budget to do a county overlay project in the Road and Bridge Fund. 2021 was our off year, so we're budgeting that in 2022. So that's why you're always going to see it fluctuate every other year. It's because we've got that around 2 million. They dropped it down.
So repairs and maintenance actually includes the pavement project.
Yes, because it's not capital. It really is a maintenance project.
It includes roads, in other words.
Yes, unless it's a bridge reconstruction or something like that. That would be capital, right? A brand new road or something like that would be capital. Of course, your interfund charges have increased. So once again, Gary, that's where you'd want to pull that figure out, right, to really show that. And then your contingency is pretty much the same as last year. Okay. So as it stands, do you have any questions with total county expenditure, where we're currently at? So do you want to pull those 2 pieces out and kind of look at that?
I got a question on the capital project.
Yes.
Where are you just taking that 2.5 out of the new projects under that sheet, or where are you getting that?
Okay, so it's a few different places. Hold on, I've got it split out here. So it's anything really labeled capital outlay. So you're going to have in the communications fund that 400 and some thousand. That's going to go into that 2.5. Anything in CEF, CIP, conservation trust gets pulled into there. If we did have any road and bridge projects, but I don't think.
So even though it's in an enterprise zone, it still shows up.
Yeah, because it's total county expense. So this total county is where you wrap everything together
Okay.
and pull it all.
This includes all the broadband revenues and.
Yes, yes. When you're looking at total county as a whole, it's going to include any of your general government, any of your public works, your human services, your recreation and culture,
Total dollars you're handling and.
total dollars. Yes, exactly. Okay. Any other questions with that? So where are we at? 30. Let me get you that figure. So when you take out your interfund, Gary, 4.8 minus 2.8, and I'm just rounding these, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
You've got 22 million in revenue and 29.1 in expense. So you're about 7.1 is what you're budgeting without that interfund.
So as of right now,
As of right now,
based on what everybody's presenting us,
correct,
we're about 7 million different.
correct.
That's kind of the number I was trying to get to.
Yep.
Very large.
And I mean, you have to look at it. Some of those we are really strictly using fund balance to help offset, right?
And when we say fund balance, we're strictly talking dollars that are in that budget that didn't get spent. Am I understanding that correctly?
In that fund that didn't get spent. Because it's not necessarily budget to budget, right?
They weren't necessarily appropriated then, or not?
No, it's appropriated, but when we talk about budget, I want to make sure that we aren't saying anything not spent in the assessor's budget just gets automatically reallocated in the assessor's
No.
budget the next year.
No, I get that.
Okay, yes,
But what we gotta watch out for, things like the drainage project at the airport and the concrete pad that we pulled money out of CCITF, I believe. or
CDGF.
somewhere, yeah.
Yep,
That then didn't get done.
correct. So that would roll over to the next year.
Yeah.
Yes,
Some do, some don't.
correct.
Okay.
Depending on, if you've got projects, that's going to roll over, right? But general operations is not going to just roll over to that department for the next year. I put it in,
But we have the money.
correct. So that's where it'll roll over into that fund, and I will reallocate it to those different departments within that fund for operational purposes and capital purposes. Okay.
What was that, 7 point what?
7.1.
And that's, the difference between actual revenue and actual.
Correct. Correct. But I think we also have to look at, okay, where are we estimating 2021 to come in for, right? Because if we look,
Oh, that's where your revenue is an estimate, just like our expenses are, but
correct, but we always budget
low.
way low, right? Because,
Revenue.
and high on the expense side. And so that's where you have to look
Well,
at
that's how we
all
kind
of that.
by last year.
Right, so you've got 29.7 minus our interfund of 2.2 is 27.5, and you've got 27.5 minus interfund of 2.4, 25.1. So really,
Just doing that as a percentage.
I'm rounding again. So 2021 estimated, when I take out interfund charges in the revenue and expense, estimated
Revenue.
estimated revenue and estimated expense. So I'm not looking at what we budgeted for in 2021.
Right.
I'm looking at where we expect to come in at for 2021. Take out interfund. Your revenue is expected at 27.5 and your expense is 25.1. So you've got a 2.4 positive difference between those two
Actual dollars.
of actual dollars. So that's where, one, some of it is carryover, right? We didn't spend, like those two projects that you're talking about, those are things that
Right.
carry over, right? So some of that is fund balance. So that's where looking at it, total overall is great, but you kind of have to dig into the details a little bit to really understand and get, we don't really need a,
Without drilling down too deep, do you think in 2021, we had to spend reserves to function through the entire year? Or do you think our revenues actually covered, did we have a balanced budget?
overall, right? And that's kind of what you're wanting, correct?
Yeah.
Kind of an overall, I'm going to say, yes, our revenues covered our expense.
The budget cuts we made last year did allow us to actually operate on a balanced budget. There's a ballpark. Where the year before, we actually we dipped into reserve 1.3, if I remember, and we were kind of budgeting a flat budget that year.
Flat with, you're going to have increases, right? But it also,
But we asked everybody to budget.
right. The hard part about it is, and I hate to say absolutely yes, 100%,
Oh, I know.
is because you've got some of those outlying figures that you then have to say, okay, some of these projects, we were dipping into fund balance for that, right? So we were going to spend our reserves that we had built up from previous years, but that project just didn't get finished. And so that's where it's really hard just overall to say yes, correct? And so that's where I think you have to look at your operations compared to an overall. So if you turn a couple pages to E1, I think this will help. Operations-wise, estimated 2021 revenue is going to be 25.8. Now, operational expense is not going to include your internal service functions. So that's not going to include your fleet or your central service for those interfund charges. So you don't need to really take that out.
I'm sure you're talking 2021.
Yeah, 2021, 25.8 in revenue.
2020. If I'm looking at there, okay, I'm looking here. Oh, I'm looking at your graph down below. So
Oh, gotcha. Oh, that I need to update that. It looks like it.
okay,
Thank you.
no problem.
I'm like, I don't.
Might have been looking at the one you were. It would have been the same.
Geez, update. I thought that automatically did. Okay. And then your expense side is 23.6, right? So operations, you're looking pretty good there for us, right?
For 2021.
For 2021. Now we budgeted 2021, as you can see, for operations to come in as 4.5. Let's round up. Right, you're going to expend more than you brought in as revenue, correct? So that's where.
That was how it was budgeted.
Yes.
Even with the cuts we made.
Correct. So you can really see that for operation, when you're talking about operations, you're looking at really no capital.
And that's part of it.
And that's part of when you're looking at overall total, it's a little hard to
Right.
automatically say for sure or not. But when you come to the bulk of the county functions, right? That's how we, in order to run county functions, county services, this is where you need to come at.
I'll just be honest. What I hear from the public is, are you spending more than you're generating? And that's a matter of opinion, whether it's been in reserves or not. But, and it gets confusing to be able to give them a definite answer.
Yes.
So that's where I'm drilling down.
Sure.
To be able to say, after the cuts we made last year, did we still have to dip into reserves to function? Because I was surprised, and I don't remember when it was, a while back, you presented.
For 2020.
2020, to find out that we'd actually spent more than we came in. And I know you got all these variable things out there.
Yes.
So that can be misleading.
And it's hard to give somebody a definitive answer because there's a lot that goes into it. Financial statements compared to budget, you're looking at two different things, right? And so that's hard to compare the two together because they are, you've got assets and liabilities and that sort of stuff. But when you're looking at budget, you aren't looking at that.
Well, the public just wants to know, are we spending ourselves broke or not?
Are we being successful or are we?
Yeah, are we being
Try.
successful by trying to reduce our spending along as our revenues are declining or not?
And
I think for 2021, it appears as we were successful in not spending reserves to operate. But that required us to not do all those capital projects.
Yes.
And even some that we
And
budgeted for.
consolidate some of your departments, right? You went through that whole consolidation piece.
Oh, yeah.
And that strictly, when you're looking at it, is operations. So you can definitely say operations wise, yeah, we're looking.
That did cut some expenses.
Yes.
That helped us
Yes.
operate fairly flat.
I would say even better than fairly flat. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So that's where, I mean, when we're looking at it.
Because it's continuing, our revenues are continuing.
So currently, as it stands, operations revenue is budgeted at 21.1, expense is budgeted at 26.4. So you've got about 5.2 of revenues over expenditure over revenue, pretty much. Once again, that's not taking into account your FML, your severance, your PILT, that sort of thing. And then that is also including full contingency, which you've got some variables in there.
Is it fair to say, looking at this, that the decrease in what our expected revenues for 2022 compared to what our actual revenues for 2021 we think are? It's 25.8 or 25.9 plus 21.1.5. So we're really expecting our revenues to drop. What is that? Little 4.4.
And I would probably take out that 1.7 out of 25.8
Correct. Okay.
to get kind of a baseline, right?
Puts us at about a $2 million drop, or a little less.
Yeah, 3 million, right?
What did I say?
Because 25.8 minus 1.7 is going to be 24.1 minus 21.1 will be 3, right?
Or last year we were expecting it. We started at 1.9 and went to 2.3 and ended up, I want to say, I don't remember, 2.5 is what we were expecting, but so we're basically facing something similar, drop in revenue wise, if not more, for 2022 than we did for expected for 2021.
And that,
Is that fair to view it that way?
yeah, for operations, I guess you could view it like that. Absolutely. And then, digging into the details as to why you can dig into that all you want, I guess, where we're standing, and we will, right?
Yeah.
Some of those, I mean, just looking at your landfill, right? You're showing your landfill at $666,000 for your 2021 budget. We're proposing $475,000, but that is strictly an enterprise fund, so all that money is going to stay in there. You still have a healthy fund balance within that fund, but those are some of the things that you kind of have to look at as total overall. Once again, with your different funds, you're going to have to look into it a little bit deeper.
Right.
To
Yeah, much flexibility.
Yeah, and where you want to go from there, right? Okay.
Can I clarify just?
Yes.
So that's just new incoming from next year.
New
It doesn't-
incoming. Correct. It's not a
Our little
rollover
pot of
fund.
money isn't showing right there
Correct.
at all.
Yeah, that is just revenue.
So our little pot of money that's in reserve is not showing here. This is just our incoming for next year.
It's an income statement.
Just fresh, yeah.
Brand new, just
So we don't see
strictly
what
2022 revenue.
our pot of money in the
Oh, no.
background.
Correct. And that's where you also have to look to see, can we handle it? Can we?
That's that thing some of us are trying to not touch.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so any questions on operations? Nope. So far, so good? Okay, so if you go over a few pages to F1, we're going to talk about transfers and what is currently needed. Did yours cut off? Yours didn't? Okay, good. Mine did for some reason. What's going on?
I'm starting to see how she does that. She puts her first in the book. We see how everybody rates. right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like throwing you under the bus.
That's fine. I'm cool with it. Okay, so currently the Ustech Fund obviously needs transfers. It always does every single year. So we're going to take that, start over. Weed and Pest needs help every single year. That's going to be a transfer from Ustech. Fairfield Complex, remember we didn't transfer any money last year. It said that was going to be a one-time deal. You're going to see that transfer again this year from General Fund and Ustech. And then, as I stated before, Capital Improvement Plan Fund needs money to help with those projects that are coming up. And so we're going to transfer that from the Capital Expenditure Fund. Okay, questions there? Currently, as it stands, if we do expect more money in Fairfield or Weed and Pest, of course, that's going to mean a bigger transfer that I'm going to then I'm going to increase those, right? Okay. Next page, staffing comparison. This is where you're going to show that 9.75 FTE drop from 2021.
Did you bring that magnifying glass?
Yeah.
Okay, I can see that. Sorry.
Gary, would you like me to run down?
I am close to the oldest person in the room.
Would you like me to go down and get my reading glasses?
No, that's all right. I only wear Jeff's colored ones.
Colored.
I was going to say, I think mine are red.
That's right.
Close. So that's it. I mean, you can go through it per government or per department if you want to, but that next page is going to show you that total personnel cost of 10.7. Personnel cost for the 134.58 FTEs currently budgeted for 2022 budget.
30, how many?
134.58.
Okay. And you see it. Distribution. Okay.
Questions there?
That includes the, no, I'll get that later, but yeah. So what is that a change from? I know there's 4 less.
It's 9.75 decrease from the previous year budget. Yes. So part of it is your jail. Part of it is your, yep. I think it's 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It's 5.
Okay.
There's 9 in
There, I thought there was 10. And then he's moving over 4. So I guess that's 6.
Well, there was a part-time controller.
No,
I got
that was full-time.
She was full-time.
You had 9.
I got let out.
You got let out.
Here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, from the jail.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, they're letting everybody out.
That made the food budget go down.
That tells us what we started with originally.
For the, they only feed you the ramen at
Yeah, the
noon.
ramen, right?
You get a ramen at noon.
Got an extra person because he took one from me.
Yeah.
It does not look like he's been eating at the jail. Oh, sorry.
So where we're getting that one is because they added one
Yes,
in administration as
yes,
That's right.
yes,
there was.
yes.
So it's a total different 4.
So, yes. So part of it is jail, part of it is facility management. So the 2 full-time people that he had, he's moved those to summer temp help, right?
Right.
He'll have 2 full-time FTE. He's cutting staff there.
Equipment.
And then the other ones are going to be human services. Now that,
Because we're contract labor.
correct, but
At least
Oh, we don't know what.
yeah, we'll discuss that during human service because I don't really have any of those numbers for those shared positions yet. So that budget is going to change. Because I don't have any of that information and it's not reflected in here. But the full-time supervisor, assistant director, those are both decreased from this. So that's 2 right there, right? Then moved over to contract labor. Okay. Those are your main ones.
That's part of the reason.
Yes, yes. All right. Any other questions with personnel? No? Okay, so we'll go to CDGF, which is in the general tab, page H2, so it's the second page over. Remember, this is the utility passback money, utility sales tax that we receive. It has dropped significantly. It's about 4,000 average a month. As you can see, compared to 2019, that's it has dropped, right? So, in our agreement, we give 5% back to the town and 5% back to each town, right? So town of Meeker, town of Rangeley receives 5% of our total amount that we receive for each month. I have continued to carry over that 10,000 for community service projects that I can take out at any point in time.
Yeah, I thought we'd spend into that a little bit, no?
We did for 2021. So we spent 1,397 of that, yes. And then the panels, pins and panels for the fair, that's that 29,000 that you see in the 2021 estimated. That's that project. So remember, I keep this money separated. It rolls over every single year. What we don't spend, it just keeps accumulating. It's separated. It's assigned on the financial statement, so it can only be used for that specific purpose. So that 300,000 is what you guys pretty much have in that fund balance. Yes, that is set aside. So I have budgeted for that full amount. I can decrease that at any point in time. It's just I put that number in there as a placeholder so that you guys would know kind of where you stand with how much you have for that.
It doesn't hurt to budget the full amount.
Correct.
As long as
we have to spend it.
know that,
Any of
we'll
it.
happen to figure out the final budget.
Yes, yes. And so a lot of your non-capital projects, you can kind of push over to here and use that for county work, county projects, that sort of thing. And then that's where we've also, before, this has been a grant that we've granted out for non-capital projects, right? So this is any emergency stuff that you guys approve this year. I would put it here if it was non-capital, just so you guys know. So that's where we're at. You've got about 300,000 there as a placeholder. Okay. All right. So we'll move over to finance and budget. We'll go through mine, and that is on page. I should have labeled these right after the DA. 18.
The DA takes us a whole.
I know.
Okay.
A few many pages, huh? I'm 15 or so.
We'll take all the conservation district stuff out of it, I swear. It's throwing me off.
Before then. Okay, all right. So there's really no change in my budget. The main reason it has increased is because central service charges. We need more money into that fund to be able to operate and maintain the working capital reserves requirement. And so as I stated before, everybody in the general fund pretty much charges goes to one. It's just easier that way instead of allocating it out between 26 different departments. So that's the main increase. Otherwise, data support automatically increases 5% every single year. That's our Encode software. Accounting software, purchase services is the same as last year pretty much. It is our accounts payable that we have to post in the newspaper, any budget ads, any financial statement audit ads, all of that information, postage that goes there to purchase services, as well as I have 2 memberships that I maintain and some training in there as well to keep up on the new regulations that come out. 500 for supplies. The majority of finance and budget is for salaries and wages.
I don't know how many pencils are in that supplies item.
Just a couple.
Okay.
It's only 500, so I can't get too many.
Can't get too many pencils.
I can't get too many.
So has there been any additional cross-training going on with sales and use? None. Okay. And as you well know, regarding DHS,
Mm-hmm.
as far as which county proceeds forward, keeping track of
Yes.
who takes the lead on the budget stuff, still a little bit up here.
For DHS.
Yeah. We had a meeting with Moffett County last week, and I left Tia a message, but I haven't got a call back, see how things are going. But, they're struggling, their budget director is struggling with the whole coding. Tracking, sorry. Which, you know, our budget director thinks it really should. Whether they'd like us to do it. But they can come the lead on that rather than them. So Janae and I talked about it, and it would require some more staffing, but it might be an opportunity
Probably so.
to find other things in there as well.
We're kind of on hold right now to figure out what's going on. I've got a call in to the state audit to make sure that I'm on the right track and my thought process is correct on.
So you still haven't heard directly back from them?
Correct. I got an email that said, I will schedule this for next week. I'll send you some available times, but I still haven't heard.
That was the conclusion of that meeting, is that let's quit speculating here and let's have our budget director, their budget director, get with the state to see what is allowable and what is not. So that we're not just beating our head against the wall, guessing on what could or could not be done. Okay. So you could see.
For more to come.
Janae doesn't have enough to do.
Yeah.
Could see some changes here, but, which that would then require just a submittal to the state as a change in budget, is that right?
So, I mean, hopefully we'll know before the budget is adopted and we can make that change. If not, we may need to figure out what, if we want to put some more money in contingency or something like that for during the year, if something does happen or come up that we may want to deal with. I mean, we'll just have to see. I mean, we're in the very beginning talks and I don't really know what all it could come of that, I guess you could say. And the one thing I do have is in the new projects tab. So at the very end, under the very top request. Shocking, I put that right up there, huh? It is an Encode cloud hosting services. So currently our accounting software, which is a Tyler Technology product, it's called Encode, is held on premise. So that means it's downstairs in a server. This would make it to the cloud, which then it would all be internet based, so that you wouldn't have to be on a county computer to be able to submit time entry and a few other things like that. You could be at home, go to the internet, log in, and then you could run your reports. You could do everything pretty much off-site. It does mean that we have the data support charges per year will increase $14,845 from what we're currently paying.
Because obviously you don't feel there's a security issue there.
There are security issues with it being on premise. Putting it to the cloud will help with security.
Or it's not losing it, but what about us being hacked and all that?
So we have been already with it being on premise. Yes. And so that's where it allows us to have the most recent updates, right? Because it's easier for them to do that. If we wanted to upgrade to a different software that, with going to the cloud setting, you would get some of those other functions that you currently don't get. So there's a few things that would be very beneficial. The one thing I'm just going to be upfront with you, I'm a little bit hesitant to go there currently right now, just because I heard back and they don't have every single module set up on the cloud currently. So if we did go forward with this, we would have to run Encode on premise and the cloud until all of those modules were available. Now, they told me that's supposed to happen by 2023. So this is somewhere that we need to go, but whether it's this year or next year, I'm not 100% sure. I'm going to be very honest with you guys. But I do believe that at some point in time, the support and service for having on-premise software is going to be a thing of the past, and everything really will be cloud-based. So most of our software, I think we're really going to see this move and transition. Now, I don't know when that's going to happen, right? They've assured me that as of right now, they're still going to support Encode on-premise, which is great. But I think it would allow a bunch of our departments ease and accessible, to be able to do things not in their office.
So is that the main reason for you wanting it, or
Yes.
would it be more of a backup in case they stop supporting?
I think both. I mean, they've assured me that right now they're still going to support it, so I'm okay with that. But payroll, I will tell you right now, we have a bunch of people who, okay, I'll be in at 10 to be able to approve it, instead of, if they're at home, they can just go in real quick, approve it, and send it off to us. So for department specific, I think it would be a lot easier for them to have a cloud-based solution instead of a, on-premise solution. But I think that, like I said, whether it's this year or next year, I'm not sure. I talked to IT, and they said it definitely would be better to get it to the cloud sooner rather than later. But if we don't have, if we still have to run 2 for a whole year, why even buy into it now?
Yeah.
Right? They said it would be 4 months to implement. So even if I did say by February we wanted it, we're still looking, closer towards the end of the year for 2022. So then at that point in time, do we just wait? I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is, but I think that we definitely, if we don't do it this year, next year, it's definitely going to be a priority.
Thanks for being honest.
Yep.
Okay.
The title content manager too.
Yes. So that would all be cloud-based as well. Yep.
Anything else?
Oh my gosh, we're already almost time up. So we'll go through these other funds maybe later on, so we can get through Assessor, Fair Board, Fleet, since they're all here.
No pressure.
No pressure.
How about we do Fair Board first since everybody's here?
That will work.
Are you okay with that, Renee? Obviously.
Yeah, a part of the Fair Board.
Well, I know, but we've got Assessor next on our list, so.
But they're all here, so we may have to.
Okay. Yes.
All right, well, let's go ahead and do that then. So Fair Board, and grab these other chairs, whatever you need. Who all wants to come up?
So it's front, it's 12, H12. In the general fund, H12.
This won't take very long. There.
Oh,
I'll start out with the at least wages part of it. So you're going to see an increase in wages, and the reason for that is we started this year having Inga and Tanya track their time that they worked on the Fair Board separate from the Extension Office. So I reallocated wages from the Extension Office to the Fair Board based off of the time actually worked. So this isn't really an increase overall. I'm taking it from the extension budget and putting it to the Fair Board budget. Okay,
That explains that total.
yes, it does. The other offset, I guess I could say real quick, is your awards increased. Do you see that on the revenue side? So your budget for awards increased, and so you're gonna show an increase in the awards and prizes down below on the expenditure side, because that's all sponsorship, so it's revenue in, expense out pretty much. So that's why you're also gonna see an increase in the budget, but it's offset by additional revenue. Okay. Go ahead.
I'm not real sure how to ask the question, so I guess you explained it by taking it from one account to the other.
Yep.
Personally seen the help run off when we needed them, and it's disappointing. You know, if there is the budget, because it's frustrating.
Sure, and it's an easy, like if they decide to, you know, if they're putting in a lot more hours, right, it means that they're putting in less hours on the extension side. So it's a very easy transfer for me to be able to do that.
That's a
You mean
unknown
even
that
later?
Yes, even later after the fact. Yep. So, you know, if it comes back of, oh, I only have 20 hours, it's,
No, they don't complain. They
I,
get told to go home,
gotcha,
and we could use the help,
gotcha.
so.
So that's a conversation I can have with Linda and just let her know.
So,
And in most cases, I think they're willing to stay.
yeah,
Perfect.
they're very willing to help, and they're told to leave, so.
But now that maybe there's budget money in there, that'll help.
Yes, yes,
Basically, we're at a flat budget request.
yes.
I'm curious, I just saw the email a couple different times on this grant that was received.
Okay,
Wasn't that the Fair Board that got that grant, or am I mistaken?
right.
39,000 or something? is it?
36. And I did talk to Quentin because he was trying to figure out, well, where should we spend it and this and that. And I asked, well, who decided to get this grant? Because, you know, I told Janae, which she explained it to me. I said, the fair went on in 2020, so why did we get a grant for COVID? But she explained to me it was not anything for above expenses. It was just something you could apply for, and we were fortunate enough to get it. And so when I talked to Quentin, he agreed that, I said, you know, I would like, as a board, I think we need to make a decision, not just a few people. And we have a meeting on the 28th, so we've kind of all talked amongst ourselves, plus Quentin, and I didn't get a hold of any of the Rangeley people, but I'm sure they would definitely agree that we ought to visit about where that money needs to go, because the way I see it, it needs to be by June, figured out what we're going to do with that money, and then we could come back to you guys in a week after our meeting and present what we think we're going to do, if that works for you guys. Is
I'm
that
just
how you?
curious kind of what the thought process was there. But I'm glad you get that. Does it have to be expended in 1 year?
So yes,
Yeah.
the end date on the grant is 6/30/2022. And it sounds like it's not RFR based, because as soon as the grant award will be on your next BOCC agenda for you guys to approve that, or approve the award, I guess you could say. And then within 14 days, I think we're supposed to receive a check in the amount of those funds. So then we just have to report back what we spent the funds on, from my understanding of it.
I don't.
And it can be used for infrastructure support. It can be used for purchase services, supplies, or some personnel services. There's kind of a,
I was just wondering if you could spread it out over some years for awards. But
No, but I think has been some definite things that need to be, you know, brought up to snuff basically in the building and stuff. Now, I think Rangeley may, you know, we kind of have a few balks in our meetings that, well, maybe the fair ought to be in Rangeley, or we should switch it back and forth, and I was like, oh, we. But anyway, I think, you know, we can go through that. That's why I think it's best to take it to a meeting and hash it out. Like I told Quentin, put it on a board and prioritize it. Vote on it. What do you think?
Please, as part of the fair operation.
Strictly, has to be strictly used as part of the county fair, because that's what we submitted as our ag event.
That bleeds into 4-H.
There's some needs.
Don't know either.
Yeah, there's definitely some infrastructure needs. I mean, there
Which didn't.
fortunate there was no health issues with some of those sheep and goats this year as hot as it was.
Is there still an existing fairgrounds?
There is.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah, you guys
Would
appoint
they
that.
not
anyway.
given, would they not have qualified for a separate grant?
I don't think so, because it's a specific ag event. Yes. Yes. So you had to submit what your ag event was, and so it was, county fair, and then they got a distribution of money, and they split some of it out for the actual ag events that happened. And then if you incurred a loss during 2020 and could prove that, then you would get a separate distribution. And I didn't put forth that we incurred a loss, because we went forward with whatever we did. So that was just the distribution that they gave to the ag events that applied, which I'm honestly really surprised we got 36. I was thinking like 5.
I told Janelle, I must have read it 10 times thinking, well, there must be a page in here that
Yeah.
shows what they took out of that amount.
Number I just saw was 39, and it took me some digging to find it.
36109.
36,109, that's where you got the 9, it's 109.
Somewhere. Because I was like you, I was thinking it's probably $5,000 or something. But it was an ag commissioner, right out, or the Department of Ag.
Yep.
Yeah, well, you know, our buddy, once he made it bad,
I knew you were gonna say something.
that's why we have a lesser.
But you guys heard our discussion on where we're at, total revenue versus expense. But, I think we're all very supportive of the.
No, we were talking while you were talking, so.
Yeah, we kind of had our own meeting, we were very,
I'm deaf.
very rude.
I can never hear remain normally anyway.
Yeah, I just, nice to see this, and I'm glad fellow fair board members care enough. There was a long time when we let one person here, and
Well, and that's why these things need to be a board decision, not just a board member decision.
I wasn't even a board member.
Well, but it has, there's been that in the past too. So anyway, we'll just make a board decision.
There you go.
Okay, so
Okay.
sounds good to you guys?
Absolutely, thank you. Thanks for all your volunteerism as well. That's not I don't know why any of you would be one.
Better than school board. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Everybody, please, that's the point.
Do you have that?
Alex, did we have
Perfect. Thank you.
4 positions on it?
There'll be 4, yeah. There's one.
4 for the school board, 12 people running.
If we could get those in January.
Oh, yeah,
For the-
our
Fair
positions
board,
here, fair
yeah.
board, yeah. Yeah, because the last 2 years, we haven't
Maybe
really
2
done
originally
anything
and
till
2
about March.
Meeker. The one that's a fill, is for Gin Hill, so it's a fill for
Oh, that's
Rangeley.
right.
Keep moving. They sold out
Yeah.
140 years of a hill owning
That's
that
crazy.
property.
Yeah.
Crazy. Wow.
Yeah.
Moving to
So-
Nebraska, right?
Back
First one
to,
to Nebraska.
Nebraska?
Yeah.
is there a statutory requirement as far as when these terms begin and end and stuff date-wise?
Yeah, it's all,
Is it in
we
your,
went through all that last year, remember, Laura?
I
So
know,
they're supposed to be the last board meeting of January.
The-
So but if you don't appoint, then the others continue until you have reappointed it, according to
I'm just
John
wondering
Stearman.
if what they were requesting, where we make those appointments early.
And I can add, we make a lot of, we're almost forced to make some decisions on judges.
Yeah, we need
auctioneering.
early in the year.
We have to
stuff
get
like
that
by
done
February,
February.
March.
And many of the newly appointed people for 21 complained, well, we weren't in on any of
So
that.
it had-
And it was like, oh, we're sorry,
Yeah.
but we couldn't wait for you to get here.
How many
Yeah.
seats are there other than Gin Hill?
Well,
Yeah,
there's
they
one
were.
here that, because Quentin was a 1-year term.
And
No, I
then,
mean, like currently vacant. like right now.
Well, Jen's
Oh,
still
none.
coming to meetings.
She's
But
still
she'll
here
be a
till
fill for us.
January.
Yeah, we had more interest than we had open seats.
But she'd be the only vacancy.
Great.
She would be the only open.
Or, yeah,
The other one,
That's assuming people want to re-up.
that is, yeah.
right.
She's the one,
And everybody applies and all that,
Mhm.
yeah.
which other
But
people can apply.
You could get
Oh,
them
yeah.
out before
So can
middle
we
of
do that with,
January, I think that would help. Get
if we do that, if they
Okay.
change their bylaws to reflect those terms? Or is that statute?
Our terms end the end of December. Isn't it
Yeah,
December
and, but
31?
nobody ever gets all that.
We'd better check because there's something that says that most of your board appointments take place at the last board meeting in January because so that if you have commissioners that are coming in, new commissioners for the new appointments, there's only one by statute that comes before. But let us dig into it a little bit
Okay.
more.
Because I see what you're saying. It would make sense for you guys.
Yeah, it'd be nice if you could get them on board.
Well,
Yeah.
it's our committee, we set up our committee.
Yeah,
How many
in
we got?
February.
10 of them, I
Yeah, there's
think?
a lot.
And we want to get even the newbies in on those committees.
Well, 'cause like I bowed out of one
Yeah.
committee and dumped it on Crandall, you know? But anyway,
Well, and then they kind of hinted about, there's some, I talked to Boots Campbell way back at the end of August. And, as soon as there's some other things out of her, she's going to allow me to come and study the statutes about where a fair is to be held.
oh, yeah.
Because every time there is a new generation of people that show up at Pueblo, and
They
they
wanna
have never been there before, and they are high income earning people that enjoy 4-H and FFA, and they are shocked at how
The state fair.
tacky it is in Pueblo and the surrounding areas, and how the state fairgrounds are not taken care of, and they go insane to have it moved. And the state fair is statutory, and that law was written in 1880 something.
So you're wondering how that affects.
Did that filter down to the county? Should it be held at the county seat?
I know it doesn't have to be held at the county seat because Garfield County's fairgrounds are in Rifle and the county seat.
Well, route counties are in Hayden, so.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
So
Okay.
I think it's just where the fair has ever originated, it's where it's at.
But the people of Pueblo use that
Sure.
statute written way back.
Oh, yeah, 'cause
As a
they
head
throw
guy.
it, yeah,
Yeah.
'cause I thought, oh,
And
you
they
know,
keep
it's
it
not
there.
that Pueblo.
So that would require a statutory change.
Barn.
on the
Yeah, and I
fair.
wondered if that came, again, my question.
But it wouldn't because
Right.
you're right, it's like route, I hadn't thought about route.
Well, and
A lot of them.
Yeah, Well County has two fairs,
Yeah, one in Keenberg and one in Green.
so, anyway.
Yeah, sorry, so, but yeah, that's something, we're gonna hear about it again.
I get it.
Yeah.
So, all right.
You want
Since-
her in?
Janae,
You want to tell, you can tell Rhonda. Will you tell Rhonda she can come back up? She and I are doing the computer thing together.
thanks, guys.
Okay, I'll be fast, if they're nice to.
Hey,
Okay.
you ready for the assessor?
Assessor is in the front, page six.
So I dropped, so you ought to be glad, right?
Good job. She dropped. She did.
Did you just want, in your email, you said you wanted explanation of where the money goes and blah, blah, blah. Is that what you want?
Yeah, so if you just kind of want to go over your main account really is purchase services. So if you kind of want to go over what's
That's the big one. So-
there.
In purchase services, I break mine out a lot, which I don't know that I need to break it out for you guys quite so far, but a lot of what I have in there is, the computers are a huge part, but that's separate on there. So, but I have visual lease services that they come in and do all the wells. They help us with the inventory on the wells, and I came to you last year trying to get money out of either Leaf or Anthony or both. And what else they do is they supply that map that is used by the sheriff's office and the BLM, and so that's part of that. And I budget for them. I budget $20,500, but they very rarely use that much. This year, I think it was about 13. They come in and they just roll when they're here. They were here about 5 days, and they were 15, 16-hour days. So the other part of that is a contractor, Value West. He does the commercial, helps us do commercial reappraisal work, and he also does our website. So when you go in and you search that data for any property search, he's the one that does that. And currently he charges, I wrote it all out, $250 a month. And he's doing a new website, and with that new website, he's going to be able to put property taxes on there. And this year, it's fairly cheap at only $3,000 a year. It'll go up next year, and the reason it's cheap is because I've had him in this office for years, and I let him use me as the test site. And so I talked to Ronna, and I said, you know, if you want to pay a third of that cost, so it'd be about 80 something. So I said like $75 a month, $900 a year, or whatever. And if she doesn't, I've got it covered in this budget. But in the future, she would be maybe going to budget part of that. We'd share, like Leaf and I share, then how you hook from that map, it pulls over into the interactive map, and Leaf and I share the cost of that. That's another computer company that some of this purchase service goes to. So, I know I asked Rhonda to come up because I thought it was quite interesting that we could get all of that data in there for the assessor plus the taxes. And because she looked into it with Tyler itself, and I can't remember what you said it was.
So I contacted Tyler Software to see about getting an enhancement to my Tyler so that people could look up, and it's mostly for banks that need this information. They want to know what their taxes were. Well, with Tyler, they would show what the taxes were and if they were paid. But it was $12,000 to do that, plus $2,000 every year to keep that up.
Yeah.
It's very expensive, and I don't think it's worth doing just so that some banks could see this. And mortgage companies never need to see it. I upload their stuff differently. So I thought this would be a good way. It's this website that Renee has looks very nice, and it has 3 years of taxes, and it shows the amount of the taxes. It just doesn't show if it's paid or not, or if there's a tax lien on it. But
You can find that out just by calling your office.
right, they just call me. Yeah. But it would be very helpful for people to look that up on the assessor's database to see what the taxes were.
Well,
That part would help.
and I'm happy to have it there because we do get a lot of those questions, and then I can filter them to Rhonda. So I think it would take time.
Yeah, and we get, same thing, we get
And like
some of
I
their
say,
questions.
I've got
filtered
it
to them.
built in my budget, and I think I could swallow $900 for the treasurer's office, but
Yeah.
I wanted a heads up so that you guys will know next year, hers may go up some because John isn't gonna be able to give us this lower rate. His will go up because it's gonna cost him more to keep
So
it.
that's not an additional request back here.
No, I'm just explaining her, that's all in here, so.
So that, how much do you expect that to go up next year? Do you know?
I think it'll go up about 100 a month, so not great. I mean, I'm guessing maybe 4,000 a year. I'm guessing,
Okay.
and I'll visit with him.
And that's with,
He's with Value West.
He is,
He's
okay.
also the guy that we
Value West.
contract part of that commercial
Yes.
property with.
yeah,
And the reason I continue to do that is he does a lot of counties, and he's been a really great resource when we go to appeals and stuff. And finding a certified general appraiser like I'm one, but for me, you know, if I did that, then I'd have to dump some of my workload of the other stuff on somebody else. So it's really a kind of a cheap deal for us to have him.
And if it's 4,000, like next year, if it goes 4,000, I would pay a third of that in my
Right.
budget.
So we just wanted
But
to be aware
that
of
beats
that.
$12,000 with my Tyler software. So, yeah. Okay,
Thank
good.
you.
Today, how come we're seeing the benefits dropping?
Because well, they could probably explain it more. One thing I wanted to let you know too, that in my purchase services, I left some of the money there for travel, and because we did a lot of stuff online, but they're moving back to more in-person classes. So I left some of my travel there, because the licenses, to renew the licenses, I've got it spread out. So we do 2 1 year and 2 the next year. So it's about $1,000 a year for the licenses. And the classes run us about $2,000 to $2,500. So, but I left some travel in there because we're going to be going back to having to go to travel. So as far as the benefits, you're on, Miss Laura. I don't know.
It was,
I think it was because Brenda Lemon or
she was
something, right?
family, and then you went down to a different designation of,
Based on your existing employees and
Correct.
their,
Which you're
And just
fixing to
changing
change.
insurances.
compared to where,
could bounce depending on staff change.
And Nicole's already at family, so we.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that was my one.
I'm seeing that drop, from 19 to now, proposed budget by 20 grand. So,
Yeah.
significant. But,
And part of that is because we went to a different,
Insurance, that different plan on the insurance, that was a big change.
that when we changed.
yeah,
Last year, yeah,
yeah.
because the guy didn't fall.
So part of it is because of that.
Something's wrong here, they didn't pay for it.
Yep.
And you wanted to know about computer support, it goes up every year. And I've got Tyler and I've got Apex, which is part of Tyler, and so those increase about 5% a year, seems like, as much as.
Yep.
It's ugly, but it is what it is, so.
Fortunately.
So.
I mean, really, it's wages and
Wages.
purchase services and.
And I know you asked Jenny something about supplies. Part of why my supply budget is so higher, I did drop it. Next year is not a reappraisal year, so I don't need to buy as many forms. Notice the value drop. The next year, it'll probably increase again. But I try to jiggle that a little bit according to whether I've got a sat out notice as a value. You know, I just thought it's interesting. We're going to be probably having more properties. We're seeing a lot more properties split, which of course is a lot more work for us. And I keep track of stuff, and from 17 to 2000, we were running between 1,100 to 1,200 transfers. And currently this year we're at 1,850. So we're seeing a lot of transfers, and out of that, about 30 of those are splits, which when you split a property, the transfer lady has to know what she's doing. It has to be mapped, and then it comes to the appraiser and gets resoil typed, and then everything gets put back. You got to make sure you allocate that value you got. And so, yeah, county's definitely.
Well, a lot of them must be larger acreages because Leaf, I was surprised.
These are all large acres. These are all 35s or bigger.
The planning department, the total of,
Not very many, yeah.
total for the.
About 5 of this year or something, yeah.
Yeah.
These are all large acre, and we've had a few that did it, and then they put them back, and then they wanted them back out, and, yeah, so. You know, and another thing we're seeing a lot of is, we're out in the field a lot. We don't have building permits like we used to have, which the reason we liked them, for one, is you knew, and then you had it in your hand when you went there, which kind of helped us. But we're finding a lot of cabins being put on properties, a lot of sheds. And if you know the people, you go there, and they're pretty good about it. Even if you don't, like yesterday, I picked up 4 sheds on 3 different.
They're still required to get an exemption.
They don't.
So they're,
So
no more out of compliance now than they were when a permit was required.
Well, they used to get more permits, because most people think it went away, but, so, and I knew all the people, and I put the sheds on, but I'm just saying, this, as far as staffing, my staff is maxed. I mean, we're busy, we're out in the field a lot, and so I don't know what, I cut that person, and if the county continues to grow, we may be having to look at something again, you know, even just a data collector or something, I'm not sure. I've looked into GIS, so I'll go measure a building, and I'll come back and I'll try to measure it on GIS, and if I get within, a few of them I've got within 5 feet, but you know, 5 feet on each side, that's not right, and then it's blurry, you don't know if it's a house or it's a shed, so then I've contacted other counties that have, high resolution, they're paying this pictometry, and a lot of them are using it, but they still don't know if it's a shed or if it's a garage or it's a house, or, I don't know. And that may be where we end up going at some point, the county does. You're not gonna get quality, you're not gonna know how many bathrooms in it, so you're gonna be missing money, bottom line.
Well,
Anyway, that'll be down the road someday.
we just got noticed, this is off topic a little, I don't know if you did or not, I think I saw it this morning, that Chevron
Sold.
They have not sold.
Oh, they didn't sell?
They have a interested buyer is what.
Oh, okay, because I had heard they were selling.
I had heard they had sold, but no. They didn't say who the buyer was, so.
I hope there's good to work with the Chevron and not like that other outfit down there. But, yeah, Chevron's been good to this community, so. And I do want to say one more quick thing. I sent you guys an email because I am going to be losing a good employee, you know, an employee that does a lot of work, and it's not the kind of work you just fall into. So I'm hoping and praying I get somebody to apply, and I visited a little bit with Laura. I think I might have some money because Mary Ellen hasn't been used quite as much, and if not, I'll be begging for some help, because if I can get somebody on board to train with her, it would sure make life easier, because it's not a job you just fall into. It's pretty technical. So.
Meaning it requires more
Yeah.
higher level employee. That's the way to put it.
You know, and people, you say, oh, transfer clerk, oh, that sounds easy, you just change the name. Well, it isn't that easier. You've got to be able to read legals, and you've got to be able to map, and, you know, there's a lot to a transfer clerk.
This is off topic again, but I would love to see you in front of all the departments at least, give a really good explanation of how the taxation is working. Because I really think there's a lack of understanding that the difference between residential and everything else, that it's over 4 to 1. I've been on my soapbox about this already.
Oh, like this new
4 to
bill?
1. Takes 4 times more residential valuation to generate the same taxes. And increase in residential isn't gonna replace,
An oil well.
commercial. And there's we're having a lot of houses moving and whatnot, considering that.
Yeah, and I kind
generating that much tax dollars.
yeah.
So,
That's
I mean, I've really gained an appreciation for the work that it takes to figure out all the different special districts each taxpayer is in.
yeah, it's a trick, but it's easy. It is. So anyway. Okay, anything else about me?
Thank you. Yeah.
Welcome. I hope someday we can get employees paid for the job they do. Because of course, everybody feels their employees are underpaid, but it's, I've lost a lot of employees through the years to other offices, whether it's maintenance or sheriff or whatever. So when you take
Whatever we pay more here, we gotta cut somewhere else.
Oh, I know that. And with that new law gonna pass and the House bill's already passed, oil and gas is on the way out of the state.
Oh, they are.
And rightfully so. I don't blame them. They'll stay here and keep their leases, but they're not.
Well, if you look at the new legislative districts in Colorado.
Yeah. Awful. Well, it could have been worse.
Yeah.
Well, not
Not much worse.
I'm talking at the state level. On the
Oh,
House member, the proposal right now is Moffett, Rio Blanco, Route, and Eagle is one district. We'll be in with Route and Eagle, so they're gonna have numbers.
they're gonna be,
And then Garfield and Pitkin are another district. So Perry Will is,
Harry's in that one, I saw
yeah,
that.
but when they combine
Hey,
that,
we got a steamboat lady gonna run.
so, and I'm talking for the state level,
Yeah, that's what I mean, for the house seat, there's a,
that'll
something
be
announced.
in our district.
All right, well,
So
thank you.
it's not gonna help us do any better at the state legislatively.
No. And if I was oil and gas, I'd be gone too, and see.
Unfortunately.
Oh, everybody else can get tax breaks except for oil and gas. That makes you feel really welcome in the state, huh?
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, sure Dave's up next.
Yes. So he's got his own tab.
So, real briefly, just looking at this deal, give me a quick explanation of the difference between supplies and purchase services in your department, so I understand it.
Supplies are basically consumable. Purchase services are services that somebody from outside provides for us, either through permits and fees or compliance type stuff.
That's why we're seeing purchase services jump a little bit. This outside sources have raised their fees.
Yep. And we're required to do more. And
I understand why supplies have gone.
I don't.
Right.
I do. I know what you mean, but
Yeah. I mean, I know that we're paying more, let's put it that way.
yeah, right now we've already spent about $20,000 more on gasoline than we did the year before. We're over budget that much, and diesel's way up. Other things, diesel exhaust fluid, we're spending $1,000 a month on that stuff. It's just a lot of it. You know, the only reason I'm not pushing the limits on the budget on some other things like tires is you can't get them.
Would it be cheaper on the DEF fluid to buy it in bulk?
It would not work for us because you've got so many guys going so many directions. It's much easier to keep track of and have less waste by taking it out in the individual jugs. And if you keep it in bulk, it's got a shelf life, and you take the risk of losing some of it to age. Not right now, but it could happen. You know, and as soon as you get the crystallization on any one container, it's shot. You can't use it.
What is the shelf life?
It just depends on the temperature and a lot of other things, but anywhere from 3 months to 9 months, something like that. And I mean, there's DEF that's better than other DEF. We found that out the hard way. So you can buy it for $2 less than we were paying for it, but you'll pay for it in the long run in a big way.
So I've been screwing up by filling up at the come and go, and
I don't know what they use. If it's Peak is one of the better brands. It's the most consistent one that we've found. And it's the Blue Def,
Yeah.
and that's the Peak brand.
What is the deal with the, what is it here, almost 14,000 in salaries and wages up compared to the budget last year?
So go to your, that is
Because
payout.
I'm going
I
to
believe.
retire.
Yeah. That's for his accrual.
Huh? It'll cost you that much to get me out of here.
What's that damn payout we got?
It's the payout for accruals at the maximum. You know, if he doesn't use anything and he accrues up to the maximum of what he could.
I get
Worst case scenario,
his payout's included.
Yes,
that's under the contingent.
39. Page 39.
Okay.
So it's under the contingency row.
But that is the payout. Okay.
But strictly.
Changes of numbers of employees and all. I realize it had been over here, but, okay, no, that explains it.
And then on the additional request, there's another 6,600 in potential wages if we hire somebody and
They will-
cross trains with Dave.
And I think that's mandatory. The next guy's gonna not know,
They have that overlap.
yeah,
Yeah.
at least a month, I would say.
We actually had a discussion earlier. We want to talk about that whole idea of when we do that transition, go to public works department.
A what?
Public Works Department,
Okay.
several departments, all under Public Works. What were the department? My memory's terrible.
It was
Go to-
Wind test, fairgrounds.
Yeah.
Road
Fleet.
bridge fleet. Call it a public work at that point. That'd be the time to maybe do that if we're gonna, is all, it's just a thought.
I want to pitch, I guess, my replacement policy. I'd hate to see that die, because if it dies, it'll
Oh, I know.
cost tons of money.
Those are the things that definitely have to be transferred over.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
There would still need to be a supervisor
Right.
over each of those.
Right. Yeah,
Just maybe not a separate department in it of itself, potentially.
It's just a thought at this point.
Mhm.
And are you still flexible with your August to just,
I am, I don't know, I mean,
what,
I could do it anytime from August on. I'm gonna try and finish the year.
finish the year?
Oh, yeah.
That's my plan right now.
that number in the personnel book reflects.
The full year, it does.
So
That,
I hate to say worst case scenario, the most expensive scenario
Right.
the
is
14.
in there.
Yes. The contingency.
Yes,
Dollar amount.
yeah. So that would be if he, from now on out, if he did not use any vacation or sick leave, what his payout would be at the end of, through December.
Yeah, that's what I was.
I won't be doing that.
You won't be doing that.
we're needing him to get sick, is that what we're saying? Use that up.
Yeah.
I, believe it or not, I have been, and
I know.
my wife's going in for another knee replacement in November, so. Need more time.
Anyway, that looks good.
I just want to caution you on the pickups and some of that stuff. We haven't gotten the ones we ordered this year. Anthony's wanting 3 more. You know all that story, but, I'm gonna bet we don't see the ones that we ordered this year. And I can tell you why. I had it was Josh at Northwest. I talked to Doug about this a little bit, and he's had Josh call me. And all Josh can come up with is used trucks right now, because you just can't get new ones. And so I had him look for a Dodge, like we bought new, or we ordered new this year. Well, he found a used one with 9,500 miles on it. It's at an auction right now for $54,000 some odd dollars. You know what year is it? It's a 1 year old, 1 year to 2020. So it's that 2-year-old now. But $54,000, and the two trucks that we ordered this year that are the same as that one together cost us $53,514.
Yeah.
Wow.
Most
It's
of those use
ridiculous.
like 30,000 on,
Yeah.
that we're buying those vehicles
Yep.
for brand new.
Well, and
So
the county was, the manufacturers give a big
they do.
deal.
But they're not gonna be doing that as long as they can sell those pickups to somebody else for twice the money. We're never gonna see those pickups. Either the manufacturer's gonna send them to somebody else, or the dealer's gonna sell them for more money than he's gonna make off of us. I mean, it's just good business on their part.
You mean for the used ones?
No, for the new
For
one.
any-
For all of them?
Yeah.
So the supply chain on that, I can't remember if we talked about it yesterday or what, but there's a bunch of, new vehicles on a lot waiting on chips.
Yeah, you hear all kinds of rumors.
It was Doug, it was when Northwest Auto that told me that.
Yeah.
When those vehicles hit the
He's got
market,
6 on that lot.
will it flood the market? Do you think with the inventory, like the supply and demand, or is there so much demand right now that won't?
I think the demand is gonna carry over for a couple of 3 years afterwards, and then you'll have people acclimated to paying those prices, and you'll never see them come down.
Depends on what this national economy does.
It does, that's gonna be a big thing, for sure. Yep. Right now, can't get all of our heavy equipment. It's pushed into next year. And I'm gonna say deep, because John Deere, and they got 10,000 workers on strike right now. They promised us one of the backhoe and one loader this year, but I'll bet we don't see them. And, but I'm gonna keep bidding it. I'm gonna bid everything just so that we got, our name in the hat. But if you got people complaining because they're not getting their new stuff, I'm doing what I can.
Well, I know. But I think we still, in my opinion, we had talked last year, and I know that was kind of the direction we were going, was to take a look at cutting back the total number of fleet vehicles, et cetera. Reduce the total number of county vehicles. And as far as I'm concerned, we still are gonna have to go that direction. We're looking right now at between 2.5 and 3 million, it looks like, estimate of less money in actual revenue for 2022 than we had for 2021. So it's continuing to do the same
We'll
thing.
just cut the fleet out, and that'll take care of the whole.
Well, I was thinking that having Dave Overton leave would save us a ton of money. It's not expensive to get rid of.
It might look good for the first year.
I thought his wife was the only one that thought that. Anyway.
So within Dave's, I've got a sheet to check on him with some carryover projects, as he just said, that we aren't going to be receiving. So you may see that capital projects line item budget for 2022 increase just because we've got carryover.
I'm still getting promises that we're gonna get them before the end of the year, but I'm not holding my breath. We already experienced a 4% price increase on John Deere and Cat, and it wouldn't surprise me if we didn't see that before March and next year also, another one just like it.
Does it totally screw up that rotation of yours to go to putting more hours on those that you've already got if we have to?
Let me just show you what's happening, Gary.
If we're not able to replace them, what does it do to us?
It throws everything out of, it skews everything. Just to show you the 3 loaders that we ordered this year, okay? When we bought those loaders, the first one we paid $149,255 for. When we traded it in, we got $149,500 for it. We made money.
But the new one costs more to replace it.
Yeah, but still, the cost of use on that loader is, we're making money on it. And the next one was $149,255, and one 52,500, so we made $3,245 on that one. And the last one, we made $4,745 on. So I just don't see any way that we can explain running those any longer, because the selling point on those, the trade value, is that they're under 1,000 hours and that they have a full year of warranty left on them. That makes them sell better to the public and keeps the value up for us.
But will it hurt us?
Yeah, if we
can't buy a new one and we have to push it over the 1,000 hours and the 1-year warranty only because.
I'm gonna say not initially, because if we can't get them, then the market, nobody else can, and the market's gonna be saturated, and the value's gonna stay high until they start producing them again.
I'm just saying that when we can't get them, we may have to put more out.
There's nothing any of us can do about that.
Are we absolutely required to turn it back?
No, we are not.
I guess
That's just our replacement.
that's our program.
Yeah.
It's because it saves us the most money.
Because, yeah, John Deere's on strike like that.
And
This whole
the
supply.
truck we ordered, Volvo was on strike, so it got 3 months behind or 4 months behind before they could even start on it. So it's just, and now, we're wanting to change the configuration on that truck, because after they did the intersection at Rio Blanco and 5, we need a wing down there now, and we don't have a wing down there because that thing's so wide that, you can't ever get a hold of it. You just cannot get it done in a decent time. So Scott's asked me to reconfigure that truck that we're gonna get next year, and I'm in the process of doing that. But I don't think we can do it because it takes a different frame setup on the truck, and that truck's already being built. So, there's a lot of complications to all of this.
Did you want to ask me about Eddie's big increase?
Yes. So, we were doing, Eddie's budget yesterday, and the information you submitted to me shows a 25,000 for his fleet charges, but he's only used about 11,000 or so is what we're projecting at the end of this year. Is there a reason for that increase?
So he told me he's gonna be he gave me mileage estimates.
Okay, so that's why.
And another thing is that him and Scott are gonna switch vehicles. Eddie needs a pickup,
Okay.
and Scott just wants an SUV.
Okay.
So they're gonna switch those, and that.
What is the rate difference on
The rate
that?
difference is 75 and I think 91 or something.
Okay.
So in theory, we'll make it up on Scott.
Yeah, you'll see a decrease.
For less expensive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And can Anthony use the old black car?
Anthony's gonna have to get by with whatever we've got right now. Yeah. Just can't find them. Can't get them.
We won't be the only ones in that boat.
Oh, everybody's there. I mean, look, when you go by Columbine Ford, look at their lot compared to what it usually is. I mean, it's just an enormous difference. There just aren't any vehicles available.
We have to have that company come back in to rewire and configure the black car to get it back up to snuff, because I know we kind of had that conversation.
Yeah, when we take them apart, we don't pay attention to where what wire went.
Yeah.
We don't have any instructions that tell us that, so.
Yeah.
We need to take it to the people that do it for a living, have them do that. We don't have the radio for that anymore, it's already in Eddie,
Yeah.
so.
He knows it, he'll have to get a new radio.
And that refiguration, to get that stuff back in there, do you have enough budget for that to happen?
Well, if we're gonna do that for the county, yeah, we'll make it work.
Okay.
Okay. I'm trying to buy a couple of things this year with money that weren't necessarily approved for this year, but I can get them this year, so I'd like to try to do that. One of those is our wood chipper has blown the engine for the second time this year. It's a little aluminum blocked 35 horsepower Briggs & Stratton, and it's not a heavy duty enough engine for that machinery. So I've got a deal through Sourcewell that we can just buy one from, with a diesel engine on a heavier duty machine. I believe my difference was somewhere in the $34,000 range. I'll get you those numbers, and then just, I've already got a, contract with Sourcewell on it. We just need to run it through and get that done.
Okay.
And then we need at least one new tractor for mowing shoulders in the airport. It's better if we have two, but I've got somebody getting me pricing and availability on those two. Because the Ford that we've got here, the Ford New Holland, we can't get parts for it anymore. It's 20 years old and you just can't get parts. We needed a solenoid to engage the PTO. They went on a nationwide search, found one in Indiana, and the guy had 11 requests for it, and he said, I'm putting it in one in my shop. So that's the only one in the US and in overseas. I called on a cat filter Wednesday. Huh?
How old the tractor was?
That tractor is probably late 90s, right at 2000. It's probably a 20-year-old tractor. And then the other tractor we got to John Deere, and it's probably 35-year-old tractor. So we're just.
All right, so then there's a few things on the new projects that were additional requests given to Dave by different departments. So I just want to go over them with Dave to see kind of what he says about it, and then we will go over it with those different departments that have requested it. So the first one, if you go to your new projects tab, under solid waste landfill, there's a cover tarp deployment system asked by Scott. So Dave, if you want to go over that.
What it is, it's a system that attaches to the front of either the compactor or the dozer, and it rolls the tarp up as you drive through the refuse. Right now, what we're doing is we're dragging our tarps over that stuff, and they're lasting us a year and a half. If we go to this system, it'll make the tarps last 10 times longer. And they're heavier
So
tarps.
you're not dragging them?
Not dragging them. It actually rolls them up as you move through. It just picks them right up off the trash. And it'll last 10 times longer. About a quarter of the cost of this system is the tarps, and we get 3 tarps with it. So it'll actually, in the long run, it'll save us money.
So it's got a tarp with it.
Yep.
And because that is a solid waste landfill, it's about 50,000
So that's part of the
enterprise fund.
enterprise.
Yep, so it would come out of that. Yes.
There's another system that's all computerized and everything that's like 85,000, but we went with this, and this will be adequate.
Will we be able to get it?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. The next one, which we went over with Trevor, but that fiber splice van with equipment.
I don't know a lot about it. He just said that he found a good source for one.
Okay, so he's got that information on it.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Why is that considered part of fleet? Because it's not a trailer?
Any new vehicle we buy goes to fleet, and it's so what the buying department pays for it, and then it comes into fleet to be managed from then on, replacement and service and
They
everything.
do the maintenance and everything on it.
It's a trailer. Picture that.
I think it's an actual van.
It is a van. It's self-propelled.
Yeah. Yeah. The next one, Scott asked for an additional motor grader.
He did. Him and his guys. I got a little input on that. Right now, the 9 actually motor graders that we have are averaging 1,008 hours a year each in a 2,080 hour work year. So those things are staying fairly busy. I mean, when you consider travel time to and from, yeah, it's, you know, and you're not using them every day. So when the season's in, they're running pretty regular. The issue that we have is we're not getting maximum efficiency out of them. But, you know, we've run out of all of our experienced hands on them, so we're training people now. Scott's going to address the training issue. We've talked to both Cat and Deere about some more advanced training for everybody that's going to be running for, and they're going to give everybody more time in those units, so we have more people trained, so we don't get caught without people that know what they're doing. In the past, we had an additional motor grader that we kept on Piance Creek. Can't remember how many years ago we got rid of that, probably 10 or 12 at least. My memory sometimes shortens things, but we got rid of that because Ron Willie was running the Piance Creek area, and he was a fast guy on the blade. He could keep up with it. Now we don't have anybody that can keep up with it. So that's something that you need to look at is, if you get a blade, you're going to need another man, most likely. Another problem we had is we downsized the blade on Ripple Creek, and that's caused us some headaches. We thought we were going to be able to use that snow blower that we bought up there, and it just hasn't worked out like we thought it might. So we actually need to go back with a larger motor grader like we used to have up there. And I've actually factored that into the motor grader replacement this year, so it's included in that replacement. But another blade would help. I'm going to qualify that if we have the right guy to run it. So that's something we're going to have to work toward. I'm not sure we're ready for that right now.
And can we even get the machine?
I think we can. We wouldn't have a trade-in, so it'd be full face value.
400,000 is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I see it. Where do we get that for? Because like I'm saying, whatever we spend on one thing, we've got to cut it somewhere.
Yep.
Well, it definitely depletes your fund balance that we have over our 6 months that we want in fleet. So then you're really going to have to start.
I understand why they want it. I think
looking at it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just cautioning you that if we, in my opinion, and I don't want to step on Scott's toes or undermine what he's doing, but my opinion is if we get people trained, we're going to get more efficient use out of what we've got.
And I liked his idea of getting these guys all trained up
Right.
to use
Yeah.
higher technology on those machines.
Right. Yeah, the cross slope, we're going to try and get the cross slope on everything now. That saves you time, it saves you gravel. His perspective on how to blade roads and how to pull ditches and save the gravel is much different than we've had in the past. And I think it's on the right track. Good.
So the next one is an asphalt zipper machine.
Yeah, and I'm not sure where that came from. I think probably Jim Mays, in Larimer County, where he used to work, they used one over there, and they could reclaim gravel and save them on gravel, save them on blade time. I'm not sure we have the same conditions here as they have there. I don't know what their conditions are, but there's just some things you can't manufacture gravel off of a road if it's not already there. But
Is that what that does?
it does, it just mills it up and it brings the gravel back to the top instead of having all the fines on top. And then you lay it back and it's supposed to, the good part about it is you can get below your washboards and it makes a better road when you're done, for sure.
Right. It's not as worse.
And we have a couple of 3 roads that it could really improve in that regard.
So it does it on the road itself too, not
Yes.
just the edges.
Right, yeah, you'd have to make probably on most of our roads 3 or 4 swaths to get the whole road done.
You got to have enough road base above the pit run to do it.
Correct.
I don't know how much road base we've got on most of our roads.
Well, I don't think any of us do. It's, we've been spot grabbing for so long that it's gonna be real spotty. And, in the mile, you might hit 3 different depths, It's just hard to say.
The 2 to 3 additional patrol vehicles, in that cost of 180, does that include the, computers, laptops?
It does.
Okay.
That's assuming that we can buy them for what we've been buying them for.
Okay, that like 10,000 or so
It's
per,
about 14 is what it's been running.
okay. I don't think we've purchased the, I guess I'm confused. So the MDTs is the actual laptop that goes in the car,
Those I haven't been buying. Those-
right? So it does not include that.
It does not.
Okay, that's what, so we need to that would be an additional cost that we need to figure out somewhere
Into
because,
the IT, if we were to go that.
yeah, well, yeah, I mean, if we get additional vehicles, they're going to need the same setup as we
Right.
currently have, which those MDTs are part of that. And I want to say it was 10 to 12,000 per vehicle setup, so we'd need additional 3 of those.
Above the 14 that we've been doing.
Yeah, above whatever, because yours is just the radios and all of that, right?
About the lights and, you know,
Correct.
everything.
Yeah, so the MDTs, the laptop, everything, we would need to add. Okay. And then a Rangeley fuel dispenser, is that just like we did the upgrade
It's
here?
the same thing we did here.
Okay,
They did a fantastic job for us. It's working good.
perfect. So it's just that same
Yep.
upgrade in Rangeley.
And another thing, that we may have to do, I don't know how big a hurry they're gonna make us be. I had my annual inspection in, well, right after we did budget, it was first, right before the end of September. The state inspector came and our, what they call the overfill sumps.
Mhm.
The manholes over those have not been elevated enough, so we've been having water and ice stay in those, and so the shell around those is rusted out and corroded, so we're gonna have to do some work there, and then elevate those so that we don't get that water in there. When we poured that, Joe Carson was in charge of that, and he didn't want to have to do this over with snowplow, so he made them flat, and I cautioned him about that, but he was determined to do it that way, and now it's costing us, but anyway, it's been 30 years, so they held up fairly well. But it needs to be done with the hump so that you don't have.
Is that gonna be a problem hitting that with a plow?
No, because they're pretty much ground level, and if our drivers know that they're there, most of that we do there is done with a skid steer anyway, and if they know where they're at, we caution them, you know, find them, put a cone on them, whatever, just so we don't tear them up. But that's probably gonna be another, I haven't gotten an estimate yet. I've asked for one, I haven't got it yet, but I'm gonna say probably about the same, $25,000 to $30,000 to do that.
Okay, and that's just in Meeker, or is that in Rangeley?
No,
as well?
the Rangeley's above ground, so we don't have that issue.
Okay, okay. So that would be an additional something that definitely needs to get done.
Yeah, because I didn't know about that when I did the budget, that
Okay.
they were gonna want us to do that.
Is that all the good news?
I think that was everything on his list. Yes. Yep. Do you have any other questions?
So while you're here, and I know Laura's next, as far as reducing numbers of vehicles, how are you seeing that? Have we reduced any yet? I know that's something that has to happen over a series of years to do that. Have we cut back yet at all on the numbers? Just as the general fleet vehicles, et cetera?
No, we haven't. We cut back on the tire, bought different types that were more economical to start with. I don't know where we're gonna make that cut. I mean, we kind of moved some vehicles around in the pool so that, you know, with the COVID and everything, the public health needed more vehicles, so we took them out of the pool and gave them to them, and now they're through with them, and we put them back into the pool, one of them, and I think we could probably eliminate at least one there. The reason we put the one back in is because of Boots had one of her people that says she can't drive the, GMC, whatever they are, those mid-range, mid-sized vehicles like you drive. Acadia, that's the word I was looking for. She can't do it. She said she can't see over the steering wheel, but she can drive the Yukon. So that kind of puzzled me, but she doesn't like to drive the Yukon because it's so big. So she wanted just a regular car back in. So we put one back in. I called Public Health and they were done with it, so we put it back in there. But, you know, they got by without that vehicle for that long with, that was the only complaint we had, was that she couldn't drive.
You didn't have a phone book in your office?
Didn't go there.
Oh, come on. We'll get our heads together and brainstorm.
Yeah. Road and Bridge, is short pickups have been quite a bit this year. Part of the reason is we're waiting on those 2 pickups to come in. And, you know, we've got 2 wrecked pickups sitting there. So we're short pickups. I've been letting them use mine when those days.
Have cut back a little bit.
Yeah. Unintentionally, yeah. But, and, the other places where we've gained vehicles, and I think we probably needed to over the last 5 or 6 years, is when we broke up the planning department. They had 2 pickups, and then they have one now, or building inspector, actually, who was not planning necessarily. But we had a building inspector had 2 pickups, and planning had their pickup. And Leaf took over the other building department pickup, so we didn't lose any vehicles there. I don't know where else I mean, we're not overwhelmed with vehicles. I mean, we'll just have to, I think, a department head meeting and ask for ideas. And that way they don't just come back.
I look at like where we've got these 2 Yukons, one that sits over there. One of those could be an Arcadia as things transition.
I agree. And we were buying Yukons because Jeff Eskelson and Sean Bolton wanted big vehicles, and Cy Woodruff, there again, when he came in, he said, is this the vehicles they want? Because he wanted to buy them what they wanted. And I looked around the parking lot and I see everybody driving Acadia-sized cars. Why are we buying them Yukons? They obviously don't want to drive Yukons, or they'd be driving them. So
I can appreciate if the weather's really crappy and you're going to Denver, you feel better in that bigger vehicle. Just running to Rangeland, running to Craig, and a lot of the stuff we do, we could be in that little vehicle. I was down at a meeting day before yesterday in Rangeland. Mike Sampson out of Garfield was driving some little RAV, something, I don't know if it was a personal vehicle or not, and he's a great big guy. And it's
yeah, another place where we lost
our budget.
We lost a vehicle out of the pool when we hired Tia also. So, I mean, that if that goes away, we'll probably lose that vehicle, yeah. Just food for thought.
We'll sit down and do some brainstorm before you leave.
Okay.
All right, anything else? Janae's vamoose, so you're probably good.
She's done with me, huh? Yeah. She probably has hungry kids she had to take care of or something.
It was.
Okay.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you. So you're up, I guess, Laura.
You want to do HR, which is H20?
This is what?
H20?
Okay. So the only change in there, tell me if I'm, well, wait a minute. Purchase services, yeah. Well, those budgets the same.
pretty much. And
That's
the wages deal is with Lori, you know, because we do a percentage
Oh,
on it.
okay.
And I was her main department, so anytime she takes vacation or sick leave or anything, all of that is put into the
How much of
HR.
hers is attributed to you?
Like 15 hours.
So just under half.
Yeah, but Janae just had me change it this week, and we're putting BOCC as her main department instead of HR, because you guys use her much more than I do on a percentage basis. So this is going to change a little bit, and then it'll change in yours just a little bit.
So that hasn't been reflected here.
No, because we just did that 2 days ago.
Okay, so that'll go back down a little bit.
Yeah, it'll go from mine to yours.
Right, right.
Yeah, reflecting there.
Okay. So there really isn't any,
There isn't. Purchase services for HR. One of the biggest cost in there is our, the Employers Council that we're a member of, that are the employment law attorneys and the trainings and everything.
So did you ever get your cooler? It's in and working?
Yes. Yes.
You haven't seen it?
Oh, not up close and personal.
No, that's a joke.
And
Clear, I don't want to. I know Laura's anxious.
so I love to.
I haven't told you what we did. I don't think.
I've heard a cooler.
We got a cooler. It's a 7x14. You know what I paid for? $2,500.
So that's our backup if we.
Compressor unit is like almost brand new.
And is it pretty tall? 7 by.
What is it? They took it apart. It's all in numbered panels to go back together.
Yeah. Can you stand up in it?
7 foot thing.
High.
That can beat.
Oh.
So, yeah, $2,500. Of course, I didn't know where the cooler part had came from. I get over there. It was an Akron. To get it, this was
Mortuary?
2 months ago. And the guy's kid comes running over there. He'd been out of town or something. Sent him back home. He pointed. He said, "Yeah, we live over in that house, and it was the funeral home." And I went, "Well, can I ask where this cooler came from?" Because it was a farm auction.
Yeah.
And well, yeah, he said, "I bought it because I was going to put a bigger one in," and he didn't understand the 3-phase deal. Oh, not realizing.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't have 3-phase power. So we got it cheap, but it had been in Colorado Springs.
Yeah.
They were actually moving the contents out as they took it down and got it a year or so early. So anyway.
Have you got it put together?
No, not yet. We need to probably pour concrete slab to set it on. Would make sense. Because it's got a drain tube and stuff, so when you wash it out, we'll see if it's been washed out.
Watch that one.
But yeah, it's all on pallets and they packaged it up real nice, tarped it really tight and all this. And apparently these people in that profession are really good at packaging things to look nice. That's what I decided. So
Yeah.
$2,500 or $2,300 something.
That is good, because that's about what that one cost.
7x14. I thought this one was way more. Weren't we talking?
It was closer to 3, but it wasn't.
Oh, I thought we were talking 10 or something.
Oh, no.
So it was a used unit. It wasn't a new.
And I can't tell you the dimensions. It's a 3-person.
Oh, so it's not very big. This is
And you
7
can't
foot
stand
by
up in,
14
you
foot
can't
by-
stand up in it, or, it's probably about 5 foot, maybe. I have to bend over a little.
Is it about the same size as the hospital one? The one at the hospital?
Just a tiny bit smaller. Yeah. So,
Oh, this one's big enough, if you put the framework in there to hang deer and elk and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. That is good. Do you want to, did you have anything else on that?
Not on, I don't think so, not on that.
Let's see, and then the coroner one is on H11.
Explain to me why that salary's fluctuating.
The salary, the way I did the deputies.
Oh, that's in there as well, you're right, I got you.
Yes.
I always forget.
And Dr. Kruger had, when I was the deputy, he had me on a monthly salary. And I was basically on call all the time. And I did not. Now if I'm gone, because I take 98% of all cases. And then they only take on call if I'm going to be gone. And then they get an on-call wage. And then if they're called out, then they, or for training or anytime they're actually at work.
Who is now the
Then they get,
deputy?
I have three right now, basically. Nicole Becker in Rangeley. And I've kept Sarah Jennings.
Really?
And like last weekend when I was moving cows, she came up and visited her mom and stayed for the weekend. And so that will go away eventually.
Right.
And then I just hired Karen Dietrich. She works at the prison there in Rifle. And her husband is State Patrol, Corporal Dietrich, and they bought Luke Poloni's place out on Strawberry.
Okay.
So she hasn't had her first case yet, and so she's doing some online training.
So you've had to spread that out to replace Sarah, kind of. Yeah.
And under state statute, it is required that I get 20 hours of continuing education a year, and my deputies get 20 hours every 2 years under state statute. And then the purchase services, the largest supply in there is my autopsies.
That you're paying for.
Yeah.
Which is like a contracted out deal.
And
That's
about 16 autopsies.
Average.
And toxicology, autopsies and toxicology. Coroner Association dues is 1,000.
So you have had those 16 in 2021? Because your estimated actual is exactly your budget number.
Well, I don't know what the rest of the year will.
She's just projecting out.
So that's,
It's a
what did
swag.
you do so far, do you know?
The
Years prior, you didn't,
I didn't.
I realize that's an estimate.
Yeah. And so I budget to use it just in case. Because each autopsy is like anywhere from $1,200 to $1,500 a piece. So, and you never, you don't know if you're going to get one or not.
Well,
Year to date, she's at 7,000, a little over, whenever.
Oh, okay, so you haven't had many.
Sometimes hunting season is
Busy season?
the busy season.
towards the end of the year, it seems
But it
like.
has,
So far, so good.
yeah, nothing. We've been very fortunate.
And you got a grant to help offset some of those, right? Because
Yes.
if you do a toxic,
Yeah.
right?
They do. So then the state, for 2 grants that I did receive this year, one was for suicide. It's basically under the CDPHE for suicide prevention. And I just had to get some material paper material to provide people who had a family member that died by suicide, and provide them with pamphlets. I had to be part of an organization for suicide prevention, which we didn't have in our area. So they didn't make me do that. And I had to take a little online training, and I got $5,000 for it. And I provided some information to one person.
21. Is that showing in here anywhere?
Yeah, it's that state grant. Do you see that on the revenue side?
Ah, okay.
Yeah. And then the other grant is actually based on usages.
Purchase services where that expenditure was recorded, which wasn't a lot. Okay, and I missed that last one.
Oh, and then the other grant is, it is strictly based off of use. It's for the opioid. It's based off of your opioid stuff. And so if I suspect that a person died due to opioid abuse, or that was a contributing factor to their death, and I send them for toxicology, this grant will pay for that toxicology test. And I think I got reimbursement for 4. Yeah. So, and that's strictly based off of the case, what type of cases I have. And then some of the other costs there under purchase services are like the trainings that we talked about. And Coroner ME, which is a database for my cases, and then QHN, Quality Health Network, which it's only $600 a year. It allows me to go in and pull up people's medical records within our region. And then that helps decide whether I send them for autopsy or not, depending on the type of case it is. The supplies, of course, my largest expense there is the body bags. I don't chintz on those too much at all.
How many per body do you use?
Well, just one, but they're a higher quality of bag.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
They're a higher quality of
I didn't
There have been
understand.
instances that you need,
High quality.
high quality bags.
very much so.
So. And then the rest are just little, gloves and a flashlight here or there. And then just gloves or flashlight or
Vaseline.
sanitation wipes.
Vaseline.
No, Vicks.
I don't know, you just felt hold up.
That should come out of the sheriff's budget because I supply them. And I seem to supply law enforcement with it because I buy better gloves as well. And they come up a little higher. And I buy extra large for them, medium fine.
I'd probably go through 3 of them.
And, it's little things that really have made my life wonderful for the coroner's office. And I got the new camper top for the pickup, which is shorter and allows me to park in over there.
Sorry, I'm thinking about the museum's report yesterday.
It's been great though for the coroner's office.
15 times that was mentioned.
You're out pretty good.
Yeah, I thought, ooh.
And it's got a side room for, like, if I need to have them viewed, like if a family member would like to come in and see them there. And then little things like I got a $14 threshold that Fleet bolted in that goes up and down, and now I can put a body in and out by myself much more easily. And a few lights in the back of the truck that they allowed me that they put in. It's just they've been awesome for all those little teeny
How many
projects.
miles has that pickup got on it?
I couldn't tell you.
Probably not a huge amount.
Oh.
Or did it get transferred to the coroner's office? Because
It's been there. I've been deputy for 5 years and coroner for 2, so it's been here for 7. It was
you're
scheduled,
putting less than 5,000 miles a year.
probably, yeah.
Just looking
Oh, yeah.
at things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got new tires, right?
I've got,
I'm just making sure.
got brand new tires. Yeah, Sarah had parked it on a slope, brakes, emergency brakes, everything on. We're in the house with law enforcement. We look out the window and the truck goes
So that's
down in
good.
town, and it rested on a snowbank. It didn't hit anything, but because the tires were,
It was just slipping
yeah, because
for the ghost.
somebody gave it a push. But anyway, I got new tires out of it.
Okay,
I came back pretty excited that day, though.
Yeah, it was great.
The whole 3rd floor knew about it because Sarah and I were pretty excited.
that pickup sliding around, no driver, it is concerning.
Yeah, big news
And
around here.
she ran out after it,
Who
and
was that?
and Sarah. And
Yeah.
we had 5 law enforcement officers that were in with us to help us carry, and they just looked at it go. And she's the one that took off after it. So,
All right. Anything else? Is there any other requests?
No,
yeah. Don't have
not by HR or
Okay.
coroner. Did you get through both of them?
Yep.
So if we want to move back to just a couple of the ones, these will go pretty fast. I just want to go over them with you guys. So, the Conservation Trust tab in your book, remember I budget to spend everything in that every single year from what we received. So as of right now, 38,211 is budgeted in there, but it is not appropriated for anything specific. So it's just a number I plug in there that we can use for those specific purposes in that mission statement. We have to sign something every year saying we will only use it for these purposes and set forth and blah, 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 that fun stuff. So it's for the acquisition or improvement of recreational facilities, campgrounds, fairgrounds, picnic area, furnishings, fences, paving, parking, landscaping, library buildings, parks, open spaces, paths and trails, and salaries for maintenance personnel. So that's what we can use that on, but just as a thought in your mind, that's how much we've got.
And we use some of that.
This is what I was thinking about for the dinosaur welcoming center.
Ooh.
Could it go to a museum too? If it goes to the library, could it go to the museum?
Well, yeah, I'll be honest. It bugs me that there's not a really good signage through town. Couple things, the museum, but it drives me nuts that there's no sign. I realize that's not our jurisdiction, but there's no signage letting people know that there's a big parking lot right down there. They can park their trailer. Just stop here and have lunch. Because when we're traveling with trailers all the time, our life centers around where we can park.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we've got, the rec center's got a, or whoever it is, the city has a big parking lot there at City Park. It's one block off of Market Street that then provides access to downtown.
Downtown.
And there's no signage telling them that all the way through. And I don't know if the city'd be interested in, I just think it's, we're gonna promote tourism. Yeah.
Yeah.
Most of your tourists these days are pulling a camper through me.
Yep. Almost everybody.
And there's nothing on the street letting them know you can park on the street either. If you start looking. We know it.
So do you want me to look into that?
Just a thought. If these funds would qualify. Yeah, that'd be great. Or any of those things.
What was yours, Ty?
The dinosaur welcoming center. I mean, 38,000, that'd go a long way.
Well, yeah,
No,
give them a little bit.
I'm just
Each
saying, like,
year
you can do signage
Oh, yeah.
and the welcoming
Yeah.
center and still keep a fund balance.
Yes. 'Cause did we end up using that for the new signage at the trailhead parking lots and stuff?
No,
We got a grant for that.
yes, we got a OHV grant for that,
Okay.
or, CPW. DOW, one of those.
Cause I noticed this deal out here on the corner did not get redone.
The kiosk thing, or the,
Yeah, doesn't look like to me, and that's something, remember we said it has to say Meeker Master.
Oh, but wasn't that with
Historic.
yeah. That was last year, what was that?
Hey, Bivens came and asked,
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it could be redone.
and it hasn't been.
Okay,
I don't know if these funds would work to put it the way we want it.
maybe. I'll check into it.
Okay.
I'll look into
Cool.
it and come back with
That makes
more
sense.
information on
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
is he just out there all by himself?
No, he's just,
He got dropped because
Bring him in.
the next.
Bring him in.
of the Meeker incident. You heard Terry. That's the whole point. They told him they had to use that.
But they can't use a Meeker Massacre anymore?
I don't really think that's the state's place to be telling
No,
them that, but
it's part of history.
No.
That's what it was.
that's what we have certainly called it for a lot of years.
Yeah.
So,
So the next tab is the ARP, which is the American Rescue Plan. The Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds. So that's half of that distribution that we received this year. If I have taken out what it would cost for, 3 years, 2022, 2023, and 2024, for that position that we added for eligibility, because we approved that throughout the duration. After I deduct that cost, the project TBD to be determined is what we have remaining after we pay for 3 years worth of that full-time position. So I'm budgeting to spend the rest of it, but it's not geared towards a specific project. I just put it there so that,
so it's been allocated.
so you guys can, yeah, during the year, if we want to use it for something that is appropriate for those funds, we can at that point in time. Unless you guys have something specific for it right now.
This is for the broadband last mile, or that's
Yes.
what it's the broadband piece.
Water, sewer, broadband improvements, or those other 4 functions.
Didn't we decide that some of that could be used on the stormwater drainage project or no?
If we need to, yes, I think it can be for stormwater projects. Yes,
That was kind of what was gonna bail us out on the overrun of the cost there in my.
depending on, yeah, where we're at with all of that. Yeah, yes, 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 exactly. Anything else? I'm under here.
Yeah.
That yours? That's where she went, wasn't it? We better finish up, huh? There is some broadband money there.
Mm-hmm.
Can we use that for these? One of this better battery system and all that?
I don't know, because I don't know if that qualifies for the last
Well, that's the last mile,
mile.
not the middle mile.
I don't know,
The-
using it for the battery.
For this upgrade we're
solar
doing to
upgrade.
our secondary towers?
No, I don't think so, because that's not last mile. Trevor, is that correct? That wouldn't be last mile?
I don't know if it would count for their 100 by 100.
Oh, yeah, it has
Okay.
to also, there's specific requirements for the upload and download speeds.
Yeah.
Oh, they.
The wireless,
They're really pushing to get fiber out there. Wireless.
so I don't know if the wireless connectivity would,
Right.
right?
Isn't that the one where, I know Jeff talking about, it's like, this is absurd that they got that high. 'Cause
Yes.
You're never gonna get that out in these rural areas, anyway.
Yes, yeah.
Not that we couldn't ask, but I don't think.
Well, but we're just wondering on these dollars we already have, if that qualifies.
So that was part of that discussion where we kind of wanted to see where that engineering would come in at to get fiber out to those specific different places.
Kind of identify.
Because then we could use these funds to then get fiber out to the overload for logo and that sort of thing, so we could pull people off of that. And that connectivity for fiber would.
Where this will go.
Yeah, and that's where we don't know until that engineering comes through. Yeah. Yes.
Identify where that would make sense.
Yes. Absolutely.
All right.
Okay.
You're shooting us down.
Impact fee trust fund, that one we will leave in here until I have, no prior years. So it has $0 budgeted. We have a 0 fund balance, but I'm just keeping it in here because I do have prior years of actuals. So that's the only reason it's there. If you go back one more, CCITF, fund balance, the number I stuck in there for the projects recipients to be determined amount is based off of keeping 24 million in fund balance. So at the end of the day.
Yeah. So I looked yesterday.
On this one, we were talking about using some of that funding for the reservoir.
Correct, for the planning process.
Do we need to have that in there? Is that gonna be in
Yeah.
2022?
And I've been in communication with Alden as well as that Wade Harley presented at agency.
Mm-hmm.
So I went and checked with Ronna yesterday to see exactly where we're at and to figure out what the original balance was.
Mm-hmm.
And the history on it was back in about 81, 82.
Yes.
The original amount was 16.7, but by the time they got it, with interest that they did pay, it was 18 point something. And then the next year or 2 years later, they got an additional 1.7. So to round numbers out, 20 million is basically the original amount.
Yes.
And currently, as of whatever date, September 30th, it's at 24,464. So that kind of tells us where we're at. The numbers they were throwing around, well, I talked to Alden, he called me yesterday. Yesterday morning. And I was, not that we're committing to anything. And I told him, let me find out where those numbers really are and what that original amount really was. And it was 20 like I thought, a little under 20, but they're trying to do fundraising right now.
Right.
But we don't want to make people think we'll just pay it. But the number I was throwing was 3 million at him. And they'd like to see it a little higher, but they'd be tickled. They did get a grant of $330,000 from the River District like 2-3 days ago, and told to come back.
Okay.
So they're expecting that to help. But
and this would be
my concern was this, honestly, with Alvin in them. This is to get them through the NEPA process. For the plan, they expect that to be up to $5 million. That's what the cost of that is.
okay.
So they're doing fundraising, as well as the Conservancy District themselves are making, I forget, they're taking half their budget every year and commit to it, or their revenues.
Okay.
But they're going to need it before next year to get started. And I suggested we do it all at one time.
Okay, before next year, so before 2022?
In the budget we're doing right now.
Okay, so it needs to be in 2022, so they need it in 2022.
They need to start it. I said, I would do it all, what we're going to do at least on this planning phase, because you don't know what's going to happen politically and whether you got commissioners that are in support of that. And I think our commitment, and we've talked about it, we don't want to dip below that original principal balance.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree. So that's the numbers. I'd say it's 3.5.
Okay. Is that what you want me to, do you want me to just,
They're looking at a cost of best,
do you want me to just,
Put,
Well-
maybe to put budget for 4,
You want
not
a budget?
for anything other than just, we can't access it unless it's budgeted.
right,
So budget for, that will keep us above the 20.
they're gonna need to make their, it's true. So if we budget it now, and they end up coming in throughout the year and ask for less.
Yeah.
Obviously, we could adjust for that,
yes,
but then we'd have what we need to have it covered.
yes,
And it's committed, so it's not gonna get spent somewhere else.
correct.
You're good with 4 I am. I think that's more than generous on our part.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean you have to spend it all.
Correct.
That just means that that's
Perfect.
how
And
much,
I'll let Alden know that.
that's how much.
And then we'll see where their fundraising comes.
And then we can also make it to where, I mean, he's got to request it and it's got to be, I mean, it will have to be approved by you guys, of course, every single time. So you'll know where we sit at if it needs to be in different, you know.
And I expect to take some heat for us doing this, but I see this, I truly see this as a countywide, true economic development project that the county, the brightest thing we have going right now, as far as long-term economic stability and creating assurances for our irrigators on this end of the county, et cetera.
That's the big thing, is
That is huge for me.
preserving water. Me too. Using
But
it.
it would potentially augment,
Yeah.
these guys happen to shut off. There's a call.
Mhm.
And they can release. And that's gonna take some maneuvering on the reservoir's part to do that, but it can be done. And that's why I really see value.
Yeah.
And we had a discussion down there at AG&C, and I said, Moffett County, and, because 2/3 of the reservoir is actually in Moffett County, of the water itself, the surface of it.
Okay.
But the Yampa River guys benefit by having that, well, the whole entire state does, including the Front Range, because their water rights that are in Trans Mountain diversions are mostly junior to the compact.
Mhm.
And so by this reservoir being able to help meet the compact prevents them from getting shut off.
Yeah.
So it's a big benefit. And that's part of the argument to say, hey, the state, when it comes to the actual construction of it, which is estimated at 142, which includes the planning, million, that's part of the justification to say the whole upper basin should help pay for it. Because everybody benefits.
Yeah.
If we can use that as seed money basically for a true large economic development project, and that's what I see it as being, a stability project.
Mhm.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
Okay.
No, I would agree with that.
Well, I'll put it there. I'll put it geared towards that purpose.
Okay.
And then we can just go from there.
That number, this was as of September 30th, according to Rob.
Yep. So we should,
Does it have the interest rates on it?
Oh,
it should at the very beginning of that column. Do you see that, Ty? Okay.
where do we? I was just shocked when she said the original, this would have been like about 81, 82 maybe. The original was 16.7, and by the time they got it paid, it was 18.
Yes.
Because of the interest on
Yes.
it. Because that was during 21% interest rate.
Well, even, I mean, you look at the end of last year and just off of,
The new investment account, what we're getting on interest versus, like, you can see what we're getting on the CDs.
the other one. I mean, we were making $16,000 a month on just one of our accounts within CCITF, and now it's down to 200.
Mhm.
So, I mean, just, it's huge right now.
Yeah, it all depends on whether you're borrowing or
Yep.
whether you're
Yeah.
borrowing money or lending money, whether you like it. I mean,
Absolutely.
Makes me sick that we don't have more, that we're handcuffed to what we can invest in, because we can make,
that's always been the case.
Yeah.
no, I know.
Some of our predecessors stretched that from what
I've heard that.
Okay, so the last one I want to go over with you guys is central services. So flip one more. I guess there's a couple more I need to go over. I skipped one, but we'll go back to it. So So central services, as you guys know, I needed to allocate more central service charges to this fund to make it work and have 4 months of working capital in reserves. Part of that is the increase to that insurance, our property and casualty insurance. You can see I budgeted the same as what we paid in 2021, and I went through the projections, and I'm sure that that's going to be less, but I wanted to make sure we had enough. Yes. And then if you go to that third page within central services, you'll see the breakout of what all is budgeted under each of those line items. So your audit fees did increase to 23,000 from 22,000, so 1,000 more for this next audit. We will need to go out to bid here soon. So if our auditor who's currently doing it doesn't re-up for that, we may be looking at a pretty big increase in audit fees, just so you guys are aware of that. That could be coming down the road.
Do you think there's any reasoning?
I think he might be looking at retiring. Yeah. Otherwise, everything is budgeted pretty much flat across the board here for central service charges. So it's your copier charges, your maintenance on those copiers.
So where does the 6,000 a month that we're paying in the electric bill for the Justice Center, which I assume that's going to drop? Some?
Yes, some.
I mean, we accounted for any of that. Some of those utilities?
No.
No, I didn't figure it
No.
out. That's fine.
Not yet. I think that's something we
I want
can
to see what they do.
Yeah, we can look at that and see where Eric projects that to come in at. But I think until we really see what it actually is, I would hate to budget, a 20% decrease if it's not going to be that. But that would all be in facilities budget, facility management budget. Yes. Yep. Any other questions with central service costs? Your main cost in here is your insurance as well as audit and copiers. Really, that's it. And we buy all papers through here, but that's $3,000, I think. As I said before, I have one copier replacement of $7,000 in the budget, which would be 2 of those little ones or one probably big one if we had to do a copier replacement. But as we talked before, we'll look at decreasing printers as we go along so that we, that might just be one way to help decrease some costs.
I'm pretty proud of our people when I look at how they've clearly been fiscally responsible in their expenditures this year to not be spending money.
Yes.
Frivolously, obviously.
Yeah.
They really tried to keep their expenses in check.
Yes.
That's showing up here.
Yep, absolutely. So the last thing, I guess, do you guys have any other questions about central services?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the last thing I wanted to go over is use tax. So go back to the use tax fund, the use tax page tab. And it's the 6th page within that. It's use tax grants.
Where is use tax?
It should be its own tab.
There it is.
And then the 6th page back. So use tax fees, so for construction and building materials and motor V use tax has increased from what we budgeted. So currently 2021 budget, we budgeted $690,000. We're looking to come in above $1 million. So we're budgeting pretty flat for 2022. So when you look at use tax grants, I did the same thing as we did last year.
Use tax grant. Okay. Interesting.
So go to N8, and I'll kind of walk through what I did here to get that plug number. So last year we said we didn't want to dip into any fund balance if we had any emergency use tax rent. I did the same thing this year. So I took our revenue minus our expenses minus our transfers to make sure to get that number to put in for the kind of to be determined use tax grant number. So that's that 127, and the reason for that increase is because use tax revenue has increased. And I can pull that out.
In the 127.
It's back on this page, sorry. I'm having you go back and forth so much.
Okay.
So that's
the 127.
Yeah, so that's that number.
Okay.
That's gonna, kind of budget even out, revenue minus expenses. Now, that can change. I just put that in there for right now, but if you want it lowered, if you want it totally out, that's up to you guys. Just remember that this is there too to kind of mess with if we need to.
The real decision we'll end up needing to make is if we're gonna ask people to submit grants.
Correct. And if you have any additional expenses, I think Columbine Park had a couple additional budget requests and that sort of thing. So, depending on where you guys go with that, it could decrease
Right, okay.
based off of that information.
It shows us kind of how much we're able to play with.
Yes, exactly. Yep. Okay, so I think that's all I needed to go over with you guys today. Do you have any questions on anything? Do you need me to look into anything before we come back on Monday? Just those conservation trust stuff?
Yeah, what
we
we
got?
can and can't use it for.
Okay.
Yes.
For those specific purposes or not?
Fraser. So does Tia know that she's on for Monday?
She does, yes. Yep.
The big one is facilities.
Facilities and human services, because I feel like we've got a lot to talk about there as well, to try and figure out what even to put in for the budget.
Tia has not submitted them a budget.
She did. So I worked with her on getting a budget together, but some of those shared positions, she was gonna get me costs on, but ever since that whole thing happened, I don't have any costs. So those shared position costs isn't even included in this budget, which could definitely change some things.
Right.
And it could change things if we decide not to go for that and just to try and, hire ourselves too. I mean, that really discussion on where you guys want to go with this is really what's gonna change.
All right.
Okay, anything else? Any questions? Otherwise, we'll wrap up.
We're good.
Okay,
All right.
sounds good.
That being the case, we'll call this budget work session concluded for today at 5:54, and we will turn off